What's going on, fellow A-plussers? It is I, your host with the most, Adam Perez, certainly coming through once again for a fantastic episode of A-Plus Hero Report, your weekly stop for your Marvel, DC, movie, and television talk right here over on our YouTube page, streaming live for you guys today, as well as over on Facebook as well. So thank you very much for certainly joining us. Also, over on Twitch, ladies and gentlemen. So thank you very much. And if anything, Stuart, maybe this is the week. Maybe this is the week that we start introducing the Spotify universe to some A-plus Hero Report. I think I'm definitely going to go ahead and drop this episode on our new account over at Spotify, guys, because they are, in fact, doing video content now. So you can definitely go ahead and catch us there as well. And probably starting next week, I'll probably put a link in the description box below for you guys to follow us over on Spotify at some particular point in time. But this might be our kickoff episode for Spotify. So I'm really looking forward to it. But it's not just myself here today. While we certainly don't have the full crowd here today, we definitely at least do have half of our nerds of the round circle here, as we got to welcome in good old Stuart Branscombe as always. What's going on, Stuart?
What's
Good
up?
to see you, buddy.
Hey, good to see you too. Thanks for having me. I'm actually kind of curious. Live chat, if you're all in there, let us know if having the show on Spotify would actually make things more convenient. Because for me, I actually do every once in a while love listening to a good podcast on Spotify while going on a drive, and so I'm kind of curious if anyone in our live chat would be interested in that too.
Yeah, man, I definitely hope it's an added benefit, another way for people to certainly access us here. But it should be a good time, to certainly say the least. Indy's actually the one that put me up on the idea of Spotify opening up their video content section. So, yeah, I think it's about time we expand just a little bit. So, good to see you, buddy. How's your week been, Stuart? You been doing all right, man?
Yeah, it's been a decently chill week for the most part. I had an extra day off, so that was really nice.
Hey, what day was that?
Friday. I had a Friday off, surprisingly, which is a
Okay.
very, very rare occasion.
Well, to say, I would assume so, man, especially at the theaters and stuff like that. So that's pretty cool, man. My uncle just came into town this weekend. We have been hosting him for a couple of days, him and his wife. Yesterday we went out to the Texas Rangers Stadium, which is now the Globe Life Park, if I'm not mistaken. I believe that's what the name of it is. But we got a chance to have a little bit of a tour of the Texas Rangers Stadium. Really great moments, man. Really had a fantastic time. Me, my uncle, his wife, and my girlfriend and our little boy. But yeah, we had a fantastic time, and plenty of more to certainly showcase him in Dallas in the Fort Worth area while he's here. I think he's here till Tuesday. But we've been having a blast so far, man, and watching some of the NBA playoffs. So I believe the Mavs play today. So it should be a good Sunday. And it's actually not hot. We've been battling like 90-degree weather out here. This is the first day that I think it's like in the 60s, low 70s type of thing. Like it actually feels like spring today instead of the middle of summer. So I'll take that any day of the week,
It's been weather-wise, it's been really amazing here in San Francisco, except
Nice.
for one thing is that with me, I have allergies during like this time of year, so that's like the one thing that kind of sucks about it, is that it's like the weather is so beautiful. I have a beach less than a mile away from my apartment, but at the same time it's just like I have to prep myself beforehand, because if I go without taking allergy medicine, I just get like my nose like constantly runs, and then my eyes get super watery, and it's just I become a mess. So it's like that's the one catch about the weather for me anyways.
No, I feel you, man. I'm the same way with my allergies around here. Like my doctor literally prescribed me like 3 different medications to take daily, just because of not only combating the allergy season, but also all the allergies I get from my animals constantly around here also.
Really?
So I always feel like I'm on some level of prescription at some point in time. Yeah, man, listen, guys, wherever you're certainly at, I hope your weekend is going fantastically well. Stuart, we actually do have a couple people here in the live chat. Some people like to come in and out, but we'll definitely give you guys some shout outs for certainly joining us today. We got good old Jack Daniels, because it's 5:00 somewhere, guys. Remember that? We got Mr. I Suck My Own Balls is in the house. Good to see you as well. Who else is here? Nicole. What's up, Nicole? Says, I can't stay the whole stream. It's my birthday weekend now. Well, happy birthday, Nicole. I'm curious how old you're certainly going to be today. We got Abase in here as well. Good old Chris Crossman coming through. Roberto certainly in the house. Hola, my friend. Good to see you. We got good old Jericho Gonzalez here. Kurt Marino is in the house. Good old Morgan certainly came through today. We got Michael Rhymes along with Francois here as well. Good old Carter Matthews is here. We got Gabriel in the house with us today. Let's see, good old Tarek. He says, why am I the only person active on the chat? I think half these people are trolls, if you ask me. I think half these are fake accounts, Tarek, just so you know. Marcelino, they come in, say hello, and then they leave, and then they never come back, sort of thing. Marcelino, what's up, man? Good to see you. I know we didn't have a show last weekend, but regardless, it's fantastic to see everybody here today. Good old Datilla in the house, and Mr. Sonny Shields. Good old Sonny Shields in here also. So thank you guys for the love and certainly coming through for our show each and every weekend. Always great to see you guys. And hopefully with all the names that we listed like 20 names. I don't see why there shouldn't be 20 eyes popped on this live chat today. So definitely a plan to stick around if you're certainly going to pop up in the live chat, guys. So thank you very much for everybody's presence today. Stuart, we got a couple of great topics today, man. We're going to get into a bunch of Star Wars talk today. Might take up half of the show for all we know. We got some CW conversation as the DC television side of things, along with the cinematic universe side of things, are continuing to be shaken up a little bit. We're also going to be diving into some Daredevil news for you big Marvel fans out there, along with we got a She-Ra topic and League of Extraordinary Gentlemen, and then of course your guys' live viewer questions. So should be a good show. And Stuart, you know what we like to start off with, man? Good old honorable mentions, topics that didn't quite make the cut for today's stories, but stories that we felt you certainly should know. I don't know if you have any honorable mentions to start off today, Stuart, at all.
I got one, and it was a movie I mentioned a little bit ago, but I finally got to watch it on on Friday, and that's Chip and Dale Rescue Rangers. If you guys have not seen this movie on Disney Plus,
I did see it available. No, I haven't seen it, but I did see that it was available now.
Yeah, I highly recommend it. Keep in mind, I'm not like a big Chip and Dale fan. Like, I didn't really watch that much of the show growing up. So it's definitely a movie written, like, even if you haven't seen the show, like, you can definitely get a good idea of what, like, you don't really need to see the show to understand what this movie's about. Like, it's pretty interesting. It took like an idea that I actually have had for a while for a live action movie. But I could never figure out how to get it to work. And this movie took that idea and figured out how to get it to work in a really funny, like kind of buddy cop comedy. Oh, you're muted.
I will say this. I did talk to my girlfriend yesterday when I saw it up. I was like, babe, we got to check out this movie, apparently. I was like, everybody's talking about Chip and Dale. We got to check this out. But you liked it, huh?
I did. There are some hilarious cameos, and one that you think is a cameo, but then ends up actually playing like a bigger part later on. And I don't want to spoil it for you because it's so random, but also hilarious. Okay. Yeah, I think you'll enjoy it. It's a really funny movie, and I think for me, just looking at it like at a filmmaking standpoint, how they use like a really good mixture of like computer graphics and actual props. The way everything is filmed is just like incredible when it comes to kind of scaling and scoping a lot of the characters, because it's live action people with cartoons, which means you get cartoons of all shapes and sizes. So the world that they live in really feels like a world that these type of cartoons would live in.
I get you. Yeah, definitely. We had let me pull up these comment real quick. Good old Michael Rhymes says, Chip and Dale, aren't those the Vegas male strippers? I think you're thinking of different types of Chip and Dales. These are chipmunks. These are chipmunks. But let me ask you, Sonic. I don't want to say you prefer Sonic over Chip and Dale, but in comparison to the idea of like an animated movie, Sonic, was it on the lines of as enjoyable as Sonic, or not quite, or just a different feel?
I would say different feel, but like enjoyment wise, like I'd say they're basically on the same level.
Okay. All right. Hey, that's exactly what I need to hear, man. So I'll definitely go ahead and check it out for sure. Let's see here. A couple other honorable mentions for you guys today. We did get ourselves a brand new image from Thor: Love and Thunder, as we get the opportunity to see Valkyrie along with the mighty Thor sitting just pretty on their thrones, honestly. And good old Natalie Portman looks like she's about to beat somebody's ass with those guns, man. We got definitely some tickets to the gun show when it comes to this movie. I could listen, Natalie Portman got a hell of a ton of flack for her return here, and I'm pretty sure me and Indy definitely gave our fair share of flack for returning Natalie Portman. Not sure exactly how serious she was certainly going to go ahead and take this role, but man, I think she certainly has proved the doubters wrong, just physically at least, in regards to seeing her focus and her preparation for this movie. I'm really hoping that just the writing wise is certainly there to back up the effort that she put into getting her physique up. But when it comes to Natalie Portman, she's already been Oscar nominated. If she hasn't already won an Oscar, she's an incredibly talented actress. So I definitely do believe she's certainly going to deliver. But I gotta tell you, man, every time I continue to see more and more of Natalie Portman as the Mighty Thor, I continue to be more and more impressed. What about you, Stuart?
Yeah, 100% agree, and I'm excited because they've announced that the trailer will be coming out on, I believe, Monday, and it should hopefully have some clips of Christian Bale as well, who I'm being told is supposed to be really terrifying as the villain.
Yeah, I'm hearing that as well. But Tessa Thompson looks fantastic. I love the new Valkyrie costume, and it looks like I'm assuming that's somebody from maybe the country of Wakanda, maybe sitting there as a representation. I don't know. I could be wrong. Or maybe I'm wondering if this is even in New Asgard, or if this is taking place in like Zeus's home or something like that. I'm wondering if he's has like a god conference or something. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I was like more kind of thinking that because of like the aesthetic of where they're at, I wouldn't be surprised if like the person on the corner was actually meant to be like an avatar for like one of the Egyptian gods from Moon Knight.
That would be pretty cool if they incorporated that concept of avatars from the Moon Knight series in here. Finally getting us to see the Asgards and the Egyptian gods maybe to kind of together all at once. That would be pretty cool, man.
Yeah. You get like Norse, Greek, and Egyptian gods all together in the same room. That would be pretty awesome.
A god conference held by Zeus. I would love it. Let's bring it on. We also did get ourselves our very first look at She-Hulk this past week. They did go ahead and drop a brand new poster along with it as well. I did do a small little review for the She-Hulk trailer that we wind up getting earlier this week on Hero Report. So guys, definitely go ahead and check that out if you haven't. But Stuart, I haven't picked your brain in regards to your first impressions of the trailer. What did you think?
Dude, I think I'm in love with She-Hulk. Like, I can't say what it is about it, but there's just something about her that's just so freaking sexy in that trailer.
It's the green. You like the green. You like women that are bigger, stronger, and greener than you. I get it.
You know what? Maybe that is it. That could be it. You know what? I've always had a thing for the aliens in Mass Effect, so maybe that's just it. I have a thing for women with not natural color skin, I guess.
I mean, listen, and maybe it's the idea you like to be picked up and walked through the threshold every once in a while. Do you know what I mean?
I mean, not gonna lie, that shot at the end was incredibly hot. So yeah, maybe. But regardless, I know a lot of people weren't a fan of like how fake that she looks in there, but like I was actually talking to one of my coworkers about this, and he brought up a good point, which is that it really did take them a while to get the Hulk right. Like I feel like the Hulk didn't actually look that good until Thor Ragnarok. So I feel like they're kind of trying new things with her. Like they want to try different techniques with this TV show to see how it works. So if you don't like her look now, I would say don't worry too much, because I feel like by the time excuse me, by the time we get to season 2, or by the time she makes her next appearance, they're going to try something different with her and see if it works better or not as good. But yeah, personally, I think I liked it overall, and I love how tonally it feels very much more on the comedic side, which is very much in line with her comic books, because her comic books were definitely a lot more comedy focused.
Yeah, her series definitely were, for sure. So I'm going to be interested very much, and I'm still very intrigued to see how that tone gets translated into a comedy sort of lawyer series. We definitely did get hints of it, certainly humor-wise, in the trailer as well. Some great cameos that it looks like we're definitely going to be getting. Also, some connective pieces, what it feels like from Shang-Chi, where we saw the Abomination go through the portal. I believe that's the same room that we see on the other end of that portal too. So I love the connective pieces immediately. But yeah, my Tatiana Maslany, who's going to be playing Jennifer Walters in here, I do think she's definitely going to deliver on the Jennifer Walters character. For me, it'll be just interesting to kind of see how people accept the script, how they accept the comedy aspect of it, because I do think that this series is a little bit of a risk when it comes to Marvel in here. So I will be interested to see how people receive She-Hulk. And I am one of those people that weren't too fond of the CGI for her, but I will say this, I also was not too fond of the CGI for the Hulk over in Endgame. It feels too Mark Ruffalo-y to me when I see him. And this one feels like they're still trying to get a hang of how they want to represent Jennifer Walters or Tatiana Maslany as She-Hulk. So there is definitely I don't want to say a learning curve, but definitely an aspect of having to get comfortable with it and used to it a little bit more as the season progresses. But once the show drops, maybe I'll feel differently when I actually see the series itself. But we're definitely kind of curious to know what your guys' thoughts were on the She-Hulk series. And then last two things, Stuart, I want to go ahead and bring up this past week for you Power Ranger fans. Unfortunately, Stuart, I'm pretty sure you saw this article here, but it seems as though good old Austin St. John, the classic Red Ranger that we've all known and loved, has in fact been arrested. It says this from comicbook.com. It says Mighty Morphin Power Rangers star Austin St. John is actually officially charged with fraud, believe it or not, Stuart. It says that he was charged by the Department of Justice and 18 other people in a federal indictment with violations of conspiracy to commit wire fraud. Apparently, they were taking like the payment protection program that was supposed to be for like COVID relief. And they're saying that there was a part of a scheme to defraud lenders in order to and wind up recruiting others to use existing business or create a business to submit applications to obtain funding. And on the applications, defendants are alleged to have misrepresented material information. He's being charged with fraud along with 18 others, unfortunately. And there's a huge list of people from Texas on here. And I'm like, thanks for representing us perfectly well, Austin. Somebody like he's from McKinney. I didn't know they came and got homeboy in handcuffs and everything. Somebody from McKinney's, from Allen, from Frisco, from Louisville. I'm like, damn, y'all just putting a terrible name on Texas like we didn't have one already. But yeah, man, Austin St. John, along with 18 others, have in fact been arrested. He's waiting his day in court. Him and his family did go ahead and put out a statement claiming his innocence, that he didn't have any connections with these people, yada, yada, yada. He could face up to 20 years in prison if in fact found guilty. So been arrested. Remember, I know these days we live in a world where you're guilty until proven innocent, but it certainly should be the other way around. You're innocent until proven guilty. We'll see what happens when it comes to Austin St. John here. I feel like Power Ranger fans, surprisingly, I feel like some Power Ranger fans weren't surprised by this news, but some certainly were. Do you think this is going to have any effect on the reunion special that they apparently are planning, Stuart, or what do you think is going to happen here?
I think, there's a couple ways they could go about it with the reunion special. And again, that's also like assuming the reunion thing was also not just a rumor. But if we're going to assume that it was a real thing, the way they could adjust is they still have another Mighty Morphin Red Ranger they could totally use.
Step up, Steve.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, they could go with Rocky, or just do it have it kind of be reversed to how they did it in the first time he came back as Jason in Beast Morphers. How he was the only actor that actually was there, and then the other Mighty Morphin Rangers were just dubbed over. Have it be the opposite. He's the only one who's dubbed over, whereas like everyone else, you get the actors back. Those are just a couple of ways, but yeah, I think what's funny to me though is the most surprising thing about this article was finding out that Austin St. John wasn't his real name.
Yes,
yeah,
I didn't
his
know
real
that
name
either.
is actually Jason.
Like, how many different names do you got to have, man, to be a star in Hollywood? But I guess so. He's got like 3 different names. It's pretty crazy.
But as for like whether or not he's innocent or guilty, I haven't looked into it at all, so I can't have an opinion one way or another. All I can do is like kind of maybe, hope for the best. Hopefully, maybe this was all a misunderstanding, but again, I haven't looked into it enough to like know whether or not it is.
Yeah, me either, unfortunately. But so that unfortunately is in the news. So if you were childhood heroes of Austin St. John, You might need some tissues today, guys.
Mhm.
And then last but not least, Stuart, I came across this article from the Hollywood Reporter this week talking about Stan Lee and the fact that the Marvel Cinematic Universe or Marvel Studios plans on trying to bring him back. Not like bring him back to life, mind you, but
Mhm.
continue to have the presence of Stan Lee. Hollywood Reporter, the article says Stan Lee returns to Marvel Studios with Genius Brands Power Entertainment licensing deal. It says here, in a unique deal, Stan Lee, the beloved co-creator of Spider-Man, Avengers, and Hulk, who died in 2018, is returning to Marvel Studios. Marvel has signed a 20-year deal with Stan Lee Universe, a venture between Genius Brands International and Power Entertainment, to license the name and likeness of Lee for future use in feature films and television productions, as well as Disney theme parks, various experiences, and merchandising. It really ensures that Stan, through digital technology and archival footage and other forms, will live in the most important venue, the Marvel movies and Disney theme parks. It's a broad deal, is what they are referring to it as. Um, you know, It says, however, in this new deal does not necessarily pave the way for the return of Lee cameo in movies, at least not in the way fans traditionally knew them. Insiders caution us. It is unclear if the public even has an appetite to see Lee digitally resurrected. As such, actors such as Carrie Fisher, Peter Cushing were in certain Star Wars movies. So it says again, the deal does give Marvel permission to use his name, voice, likeness, and signature in movies and television projects, as well as use images, existing footage, and existing audio recordings featuring him. Um, I will just say here, Stuart, in this one, this was really fascinating to me, but I just hope that they tread lightly, bro. I hope they tread lightly. It is one of those things where Stan Lee has given his life for Marvel, comic books, and this is clearly his passion, superheroes. And I get that as a fan, we absolutely love seeing him pop up in Marvel Studios movies. And while this article certainly cautions the idea that they don't believe he's certainly going to be popping up digitally, make no mistake, this does give them the option to do that. If that is in fact the case, I am hoping that this turns into more of using his voice on merchandising or using his face on merchandising packages. Maybe if you go to a theme park, maybe you hear his voice while you're sitting in the queue line, sort of thing, right? Maybe they got like small little tours or something that they can do a digital Stan Lee. I would be okay with that. But I think the idea of introducing him to movies and the TV shows and things like that, for me, that's a little bit too much. Like, I really would like this man's soul to just kind of rest and not just sort of use that as a money maker machine in order to be fan service for the fans, just so they can see Stan Lee again. I just hope that they utilize this new deal properly and very cautiously, because I do feel like if not, it could get kind of in a very morbid sort of way of seeing this poor man. Like, let this man live. Let this man rest. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I 100% agree. It's like they're on thin ice, honestly, with me in terms of that deal. So I really hope they don't go too far. I hope they don't use his face too much for like just marketing purposes.
Mhm.
Because I think that's kind of disrespectful when you're using a dead person to promote your own like
Yeah, it
merchandise.
feels weird, right? Like, I get that he's
Yeah,
Stan Lee, but it still feels weird.
but like, I think the way they could do this, that I think would still be kind of respectful, to my opinion, but it'd be a good way to like, just keep him in everyone's memory. Is if you wanted to have like photos of him like in Marvel movies, and I don't mean like bring him in like to do like a digital cameo, nothing like that, but like kind of how they did in the Netflix shows, how there was like the police precinct where you had like employee of the month and it would show like Stan Lee's face in the background. Like things like that, I think would be kind of a cool way to, keep them in the MCU, keep them in people's memories, but I don't think it would be going too far. But again, I kind of said the same thing about this when it came to Chadwick Boseman. I feel like the kind of people who should make this decision are like the actual family members of that person, because everyone treats death very differently. Everyone has their own ideas of what's respectful and disrespectful. And so I feel like really it should all kind of come down to like, the closest relatives of that person who's deceased. Oh, you're muted.
Yeah, no, I totally get you there. I definitely understand. And I do wonder if the people that are, when they mention the idea of the different entertainment companies or the people that have made the deal with them, I do wonder in part if any of the family members of Stanley are connected to those companies that they've made the deal with as well. So we'll see. We'll keep you guys posted. But it was an interesting topic that came up this week that really piqued my interest and wanted to kind of see how you guys certainly felt about it. But definitely go ahead and let us know your thoughts in the live chat or the comment section box below after this airs. And with that out of the way, Stuart, I think that will wrap up our honorable mentions. But it is time to get into our main topic. So you guys ready to go ahead and kick this off, man? This is gonna be a packed show. So sit down, relax, get some coffee, get your OJ, have your breakfast or lunch if you haven't yet, man, and enjoy today's episode. Put us on your big screen if you haven't yet. But Stuart, are you ready to go ahead and tackle our main topics today?
Hell yeah.
Let's go ahead and do this, man. We're going to start off with some Star Wars talk for you Star Wars fans out there. I'm really glad that I got Stuart on board to talk about this because this past week, as we continue to prepare for the arrival of the Obi-Wan Kenobi series that's set to go ahead and drop this upcoming week, we also have the kicking off of Star Wars Celebration next weekend as well. So we're going to have a plethora of Star Wars content to certainly talk about here in the next upcoming week. But in the process of getting ready for what feels like, what is this, like the 40th anniversary, I think, or something like that of Star Wars? I have no idea off the top of my head. But we're quickly approaching May 25th here. And this past week, Vanity Fair had the opportunity to sit down and talk to the creators and the executive producers and the head honchos over at Lucasfilm to really give us a better insight into the future of Star Wars, whether that be from the television series or the movies. Because as of right now, they've got a lot of stuff currently in productions, whether that be the Obi-Wan Kenobi series coming this week. We got Ahsoka to look forward to. Andor to look forward to, The Acolyte, so much more, along with a couple of other movies. So this week, Vanity Fair went ahead and dropped a huge article, giving us some insight, talking to Jon Favreau, talking to Dave Filoni, even Kathleen Kennedy herself, and really giving us a little bit of a roadmap and new details in regards to some of their upcoming shows to certainly look forward to. So, Stuart, let's have some fun with this, man. What I decided to do, instead of breaking down the Vanity Fair article, there's a fantastic Star Wars website, StarWarsNewsNet.com, that gives us the opportunity to wind up wrapping up all of the main topics from that Vanity Fair article. And so we're just going to go through them one by one, Stuart, and really break down not only these series, but the movies and just some of the news that is in fact coming along with it. So again, this is from StarWarsNewsNet.com, a complete rundown of the future of Star Wars TV and film products. It says, thanks to the extensive Vanity Fair article, we have a ton of incredible new details, sneak peek interviews, gorgeous photos, and fascinating information regarding a slew of upcoming shows. Stuart, honestly, this segment of Hero Report could probably be its own video, to be honest with you. So let's go ahead and dive into this. Let's see here. It says, explore our 6 stories below. The first story they're going to dive into, good old Andor. Let's see what Andor has to talk about here today. I'm going to go ahead and pull up this Andor site for us, and we'll go ahead through the article here. So this is Andor arriving late summer. Diego Luna calls it the journey of a migrant. I'm assuming that's Mon Mothma next to Andor, as well as we're really going to dive into the rebellion here. It does say here that Andor is a spy thriller focused on the rebellion 5 years before the events of Rogue One, Stuart. So they immediately give us a setting for this. So 5 years before the events of Rogue One, Lucasfilm confirmed to Vanity Fair that the series will debut late this summer. So it feels as though we're going to be getting ourselves Obi-Wan Kenobi, and I would assume after Obi-Wan may in fact be the Andor series. It says Bob Iger officially announced it during an earnings call back in 2018, but according to Diego Luna, he didn't get a full breakdown of the story until mid-2019. It happened while he was in a taxi in Mexico City when Tony Gilroy, who was tasked with rewriting major parts of Rogue One, called him to give additional explanation of the show. Luna now describes the show as a refugee story. He says it's the journey of a migrant That feeling of having to move is behind the story very profoundly and very strong. That shapes you as a person. It defines you in many ways and what you are willing to do. It says what fascinates Tony Gilroy about the character is he ultimately sacrificed himself for the good of the galaxy. He wanted to explore a character knowing his fate and seeing how he got to that point. So it says this guy gave his life for the galaxy, right? I mean, he consciously, soberly, without vanity or recognition, sacrificed himself. Who does that? That's what this first season is about. It's about him being really revolution averse, a cynical and lost and kind of a mess. His adopted home will become the base of our whole first season, and we watch that place become radicalized. Then we see another planet that's completely taken apart in a colonial kind of way. The empire is expanding rapidly. They're wiping out anybody who's in their way. It says the story of Andor commences with the destruction of Cassian's birth world, Fest. As he transitions into adulthood, he realizes he won't be able to run forever and starts to see an adopted home in the rebellion. The show will also include the return of Genevieve O'Reilly as Mon Mothma, so she does return, who seems to be serving as the show's co-lead. Not only was she the only Andor character named in the Vanity Fair piece besides Cassian, but she was a part of the photo shoot as well. So she's definitely getting a broad addition in here. Stuart, what are you thinking so far hearing some of this?
Uh Really excited. I think the one concern I had ever since the show was announced is kind of still there though, which is the idea that it is going to be weird having a show where you know that you're never going to see the character fully developed, because we already see what he's like when he's fully developed at the end of Rogue One. And so it's going to be, unless you want to rely on a lot of I don't know what the word for it is, but when you kind of backtrack with your character, when your character does become developed, but then they end up like kind of relapsing into their old like kind of ways, unless they do that type of writing, which I hope they don't do, it's going to be a challenge for them to make Andor like an interesting character throughout like all of its first season run, knowing that we're never going to get him into that fully heroic moment, you know what I mean?
Yeah, no, I get you. I think for me, I'm kind of fascinated in seeing what Diego Luna is going to bring to the character now. I mean, seeing how we've seen him in Rogue One, I am kind of curious to see him tap into that character, having to kind of, I don't want to say deform him, but really kind of go back in Cassian's life and show us a completely different side to him. So I am kind of curious to see what Diego Luna is going to bring to the role. But I kind of like this idea, right? In the sense that season one will really give us the tip of the iceberg to see the impact that the Empire has certainly had on Cassian's life, clearly destroying his planet, making him sort of an orphan, if you will, or at least forcing him away from where he certainly left. And when you find yourself constantly sort of on the run from an organization like the Empire and things like that, it certainly would push you into doing the sort of very desperate things. And the idea of being able to have the rebellion find him, be in his ear, and bring him on board, I find that really fascinating. So I'm really intrigued to see how this story, even though we know where it ends for him, that journey for me seems pretty fascinating. And I didn't expect the idea of Mon Mothma having such a big role in here, seemingly going to be a co-lead. Considering that we barely saw her in Rogue One, but it makes sense for somebody like Mon Mothma to certainly be in here, though.
Yeah, for sure. I'm actually kind of curious because looking at how much she kind of messes up in like kind of the novels that take place after the original trilogy, I am kind of curious what we're going to see that kind of led her to that moment, led her to being kind of like too much of a pacifist, like in post the post original trilogy. So yeah, I'm wondering if we're going to see like a very different side of her, because this is a very much like younger version of Mon Mothma that we like have only really had glimpses of. So it's going to be kind of cool to see her character like in a prequel setting instead of like post Star Wars, which is all the development I've been used to when it comes to her character.
Yeah, like for like I think that's a good point because just based off of where she is in her career right now, especially with the empire building, I am kind of curious to see like the pressures that other people give to her because of the fact that she is kind of a pacifist, right? I mean, she looks at somebody like a Saw Gerrera as somebody that's just like an extremist. And I do wonder if she'll have people in her ear asking or begging her to do these really big, bold, and very dangerous missions to maybe catch the eye or of the empire or really sort of leave their footprint. And maybe she's got a completely different direction of how she wants to run the rebellion. So I would be interested to see just the political side of things to kind of see how the rebellion handles some of the decision making that goes when it comes to seeing the empire continuing to build. It says the conversation in the car between Luna and Tony Gilroy ended as follows. He says, at the end, Gilroy said to me, "You want to take this risk with me, man? It's you and I from beginning to end." I was just like, "You've been recruited to join a rebel force." I was like, "Yes, of course, man. Yes." But then he realized he just made a huge commitment without really thinking it through. He says, "What did I just say? This will happen. This will be happening in London. My life is in Mexico. Holy shit, what have I done?" Talking about Diego Luna. It says Gilroy called the series a huge orchestral Dickinson ensemble cast. Besides O'Reilly, the show will also feature. It does mention a couple other names as well. It says Skarsgård also said last year he filmed scenes with Forrest Whitaker, confirming the speculation that
Ooh.
this actor who would be playing Saw Gerrera in the show. Luna also teased to expect some surprises, possibly coming back like Ben Mendelsohn's Orson Krennic. So yeah, definitely some familiar faces I would certainly love to see. And they said they assume that they'll probably get a trailer for Andor next Thursday during Lucasfilm's panel at Star Wars. So yeah, Thursday is the big day for the live action panel to certainly be dropping. But this is our first time, Stuart, I feel like getting a lot of details about Andor. And I still, there's plenty of more that I certainly need to hear from them. So I'm really looking forward to the panel. And I think they're holding back some information to reveal for us then. But I'm really excited for this, man. One, I love me some Diego Luna. And even though, again, I know the ending for Rogue One, I'm really fascinated to kind of see that journey. And I think they've made the rebellion seem a lot dirtier than I think growing up as a kid. We kind of
Mhm.
think of it as, like, oh, look at these heroes fighting against evil. And then just from Rogue One, I mean, you really get to see some of the tough and dark choices that even the rebellion has to certainly make, in the sense of still trying to keep itself as the heroes trying to bring down the empire, and yet not necessarily crossing that line. They definitely have had to make some really terrible decisions and choices. So I like the idea that this will show us the gray area of the rebellion. It feels like.
Yeah, I 100% agree. Because, yeah, when you grow up as a kid watching Star Wars, you're like, looking at Star Wars as a whole in a very black and white scenario, like rebellion's good, empire bad, that type of mentality. But, you even see how, even through the good guys' point of view, like, even they have to make some decisions that are just like, not good. And I think that beginning scene of Rogue One, where he ends up shooting his friend with the broken arm, really kind of shows that, yeah, the rebels aren't the perfect heroes that we think of, that we thought they were, as kids growing up. And it's kind of just and it's overall just kind of relevant to the real world also in a lot of ways. So I look forward to seeing kind of more of that play out. And honestly, okay, I kind of take back what I said earlier, because I was mentioning like we'll never be able to see him fully develop as a character, but I could actually see them using that to their advantage, because they really want to start the show out in a really interesting way. They could have him be that character that doesn't cross that line, and then his development ends up being like basically going backwards, that he ends up being developed into the type of person that realizes he has to cross that line if he's going to accomplish his goals.
Absolutely. Yeah, that's definitely a good point of view there. That is definitely a journey that I'm hoping that they explore when it comes to casting for sure. Outside of that, they also went ahead and talked a little bit about the upcoming series, The Acolyte, Stuart. This has been a big mystery in regards to a lot of people, in regards to what this is certainly going to end up being. But we finally got a couple more details in regards to the Acolyte series that's certainly going to be coming to us from Lucasfilm as well, as this is currently set, I believe, in the era or the end of the High Republic era. So let's go ahead and dive into the Acolyte a little bit here. New Acolyte details revealed by Lucasfilm from the Vanity Fair coverage. It says, as part of the massive interview with Vanity Fair, showrunner Leslie Headland reveals a few details about the project stemming from the time period it's set in. It says that Vanity Fair acknowledges previous reports that Amanda Stenberg is rumored to be playing a lead role in the show, and mentions that Headland has been working on it for the last 2 years from her home. The writing stage is complete and now casting is underway. So, Stuart, right off the bat, the fact that Leslie Headland's been working on this for 2 years already, that script has got to be tight. You would think, you know what I mean?
Yeah, at the very least, even if individual episodes aren't tight, the overall structure of the show better be. Like, when it gets to that ending, when it gets to like the ending of season 1, you got to be like, oh, I can totally see that this was foreshadowed in episode like 1 of the season, something like that.
Absolutely. So I love the fact that Lucasfilm has given her the time to go ahead and put this series together and not quickly forcing it into production sort of thing. It says that we know that the Acolyte takes place at the end of the High Republic era, but Vanity Fair confirms that the show will be set roughly 100 years before the events of the Skywalker saga. Headland was particularly interested in charting the rise of the Sith in the shadows, how they could hide in plain sight without attracting the Jedi's attention. So right now, novel-wise, book-wise, Star Wars is focusing on the beginning of the High Republic era, the idea of the Republic expanding into the universe towards the Outer Rim and trying to really bring everybody in, if you will, into their Republic. And so right now we see a place where the Jedi are very much at their highest. Think of them as like frontier adventurers that are kind of sent across the galaxy to go ahead and create these bonds with these planets and certainly protect and save people. So considering where we go from there to, which I think is set anywhere between 200 to 300 years before a Phantom Menace, to now 100 years before the events of the Skywalker saga and the Phantom Menace, it should be pretty interesting to kind of see the changes that have certainly occurred over that period of time. It says a lot of these characters haven't been born yet. We're taking a look at the political and personal and spiritual things that came up in a time period that we don't know much about. This is Leslie Headland. She says, my question when watching the Phantom Menace was always like, well, how did things get to this point? How do we get to the point where a Sith Lord can infiltrate the Senate and none of the Jedi pick up on it? Like, what went wrong? What are the scenarios that led us to this moment? Helen reiterated the initial premise that the Acolyte will be a mystery thriller and states that the show is set in a period with a new name different to that used to describe the High Republic, and they consider this time period the Age of Enlightenment, a time of peace and prosperity where the Jedi Order became withdrawn from the public eye, rarely getting into physical confrontations. So this is the tail end of the High Republic era, titled the Age of Enlightenment. It says, we actually use the term the Renaissance or Age of Enlightenment. The Jedi uniforms are gold and white. It's almost like they would never get dirty. They would never be out and about. The idea is that they could use these types of uniforms because that's how little they're getting into skirmishes. And can I just do a quick departure? It does say this is already a departure from the Jedi we know in the High Republic. While that era promised and delivered Jedi Knights who had more personality and lived more freely than the Jedi we saw at the prequels, it sounds like the Acolytes will show us the Jedi's transition into the Order we recognize from those movies. And I will say this, before I jump to you, Stuart, when I read the High Republic, just seeing where they're about to get when it comes to the second phase, we are very much getting a group of Jedi that start off really well. And now we're starting to see when push comes to shove and a new threat starts really pushing at you, can you keep that same mindset that you had prior? And we are starting to see there are some Jedi that are definitely getting into that darker headspace, if you will. These events are really having an impact on the Jedi that in the High Republic era are very much included in the battles and being pushed to help in a war or in a fight, maybe getting a little bit more hands-on than they would even feel comfortable with. So they kind of see the path of where the High Republic is at right now, to see them get to this point in the Age of Enlightenment where they don't get into any more skirmishes. I feel like I could easily connect the dots to see certainly why that's definitely the case now. But I am really interested to kind of see what she said. How did it certainly get to this point? And I think she's got something really working fantastically well for her. What do you think, Stuart, hearing this from Leslie Headland herself?
It definitely sounds very intriguing altogether. I really need to start reading the High Republic novels. I have an account on Audible, so I might just start downloading a lot of them and then just start binge listening to them on Audible. But yeah, like everything I'm hearing about here, like it being 100 years before the Skywalker saga, means that they have a lot of flexibility in what they can do with the world building. But if they want to, they can also start planting some seeds that we know are going to play out later. Things like if they really like, this was something that I remember was rumored in Rise of Skywalker, but either it was cut or they ended up just not going through with it. But the idea of Matt Smith playing like a really young Palpatine, like that's something that they could totally play with in the show if they wanted to, because I mean, who's to say Palpatine wasn't older than he let on? Like he could have been like over 100 years old. And then the other thing too that I kept thinking the entire time, as soon as you said 100 years, Darth Plagueis, man. I feel like if there was ever a time to bring him into the live action, Star Wars, this is the time. And it would be cool because in canon, so I'm not talking about like kind of the expanded universe that came before Disney bought Star Wars. I'm talking about like, as far as Disney Star Wars goes, I feel like Plagueis is a character we haven't really gotten to explore. So I would really love to see like them explore him a little bit more. And then yeah, the idea that now we're seeing the Jedi trying to become the type of Jedi that avoid conflict, and like, they're really there. They're really there as unbiased protectors of peace. I look forward to seeing how that ends up changing later on, because it's that claim that they still have during the prequels, even though we know that's not accurate, because clearly they are being biased by taking the side of the Republic and not the Separatists. So I am kind of looking forward to seeing how that kind of how that changes for the Jedi.
Yeah, for me, I definitely agree with you when it comes to the whole Plagueis thing. The idea that I definitely want to see how he fits into the story, if he does. I mean, I feel like that line from Revenge of the Sith, like, have you heard the story about Darth Plagueis the Wise? It's like, no, elaborate more, please. Like, I definitely want to go back to that time period and find out. It does make me wonder if the acolyte is in fact Plagueis himself. If this is maybe not necessarily a rise of power for him, but seeing his plan maybe coming to fruition. Because if this is set 100 years before the Phantom Menace, I got to assume that Palpatine isn't alive at this point. But each species definitely does age differently. I kind of view Palpatine in Phantom Menace like 40s, in his 40s or 50s. So I would assume that this is even before his time. So I gotta think that this is maybe in regards to Plagueis, and maybe even Plagueis's master before him, who certainly knows. So we'll see what happens here, man. But it seems as though Leslie Headland, again, 2 years to work on this script. She definitely seems like she knows exactly the story that she certainly wants to tell with that, and has a lot of great questions to ask to make a great premise behind this. Because I too am kind of fascinated to see how the Sith wind up infiltrating on such a large scale that way, and seeing exactly maybe where their plans first started. Maybe this is like the forming of that plan.
Ooh, okay. So you know how after episode 3, a lot of the temple guards ended up being like some of the first recruits that became the Inquisitors.
Yeah.
Like, I feel like for temple guards to just turn like that kind of has never made any sense to me. So I'm wondering if we're going to find out that some of these temple guards had actually been planted there beforehand, like, by Plagueis, kind of like how the clone troopers had always been, turned, or had always been like, working for Palpatine this whole time, but of course they didn't activate until you said Order 66. So what if there's like kind of something similar with the Temple Guards? Like, you know, there's like the Temple Guards themselves might have been sleeper agents in some way,
Some of
shape, or
them,
form.
yeah, some of them certainly might have, man. We'll have to dive. We'll definitely dive into it when the Acolyte winds up airing. Will definitely
Yeah.
give us a much better idea of the leading up point to the Phantom Menace. They also in the Vanity Fair article talked a little bit about Rosario Dawson's upcoming series Ahsoka, which I know a lot of
Yes.
people are really, really looking forward to. So they did have a couple more details in regards to that as well. Let me go ahead and pull this up here. Rosario Dawson talks the difficulties of keeping Ahsoka secrets. Trust me, Rosario, you're not the only one. She revealed how she tried to call her friend's son while wearing her full Ahsoka makeup. She says, I call my friend Polina because her son Cosmo is a huge Star Wars fan, knows every ship, every robot. He sees me and throws the phone across the room, just freaked out. He says, I've gotten ice cream with this kid. We've hung out, but it was too much that this character he loves was starting to talk to him and said his name. She calls me back the next day and goes, Cosmo just walked into the room and told me he's ready now. I said, well, that's very sweet, but I am no longer in costume. His moment is missed. Poor guy. He says the report also referenced the time Dawson shared a rumor on social media that Hayden Christensen would be joining the cast, a post that many fans took as confirmation that we get Anakin Skywalker in the flashback. And she said, I just posted Sky Guy. They know. See you soon, Snips. I looked in my email and Star Wars was like, you might want to take that down. And she's like, man, I can't be trusted. Yeah, I'm telling you, man, they got to have snipers on them at all times. In regards to details for this series, it says though they do offer some insight from Dave Filoni on what the shape this series will take. He says Ahsoka is a continuous story. It is definitely driving towards a goal in my mind, as opposed to being little singular adventures. That's what I want the character to be doing. I think that's what fans want now. They have such a relationship with her. I've only recently started to understand that all those kids that watch Clone Wars are now a lot older. They're very excited about all the things they grew up with, as they should be. So it doesn't look like it's going to be individual episodes so much as one gigantic continuous story. And I think that's kind of in lines with what we've been getting so far from Star Wars TV. Wouldn't you say, Stuart?
Yeah, very much so.
So not too many details. I thought they were going to have more details in regards to Ahsoka, but I guess they're keeping a very tight lip on that series, especially as they get a little bit closer to, I'm assuming, if anything, that they would probably be filming for it already. I gotta think so.
Yeah, I mean, if she's video chatting with her nephew like while the makeup's all on, then yeah, I gotta imagine it's because like they're currently in the process
That's
of
true.
filming. Yeah.
That's true.
But yeah, no, like hearing how excited she is for this, the fact that she even makes like a really cool reference to Star Wars: The Clone Wars. So whether or not Hayden Christensen is actually in it, the fact that she speaks our language in a sense, I think that's pretty awesome. And yeah, knowing that Dave Filoni, the guy that created Ahsoka to begin with, is going to be working on the show, that also gets me excited, because I've been loving like the work that he's been putting into with The Mandalorian and Book of Boba. The fact that he's still involved with Star Wars is just something that I really appreciate, from Disney.
Absolutely.
The fact that they're keeping him involved. This I don't think it comes off as a surprise or anything, but yeah, I'm really looking forward to seeing how they evolve Ahsoka as a character going forward.
Yeah, me too, man. I'm really looking forward to it. And here's some really fantastic shots that they had from the Vanity Fair article as well. Getting the opportunity to see really the leads of all these fantastic new series certainly headed our way. And we did also get ourselves a fantastic new shot of Hayden Christensen along with Ewan McGregor actually training for an upcoming lightsaber battle, man. That looks intense. I'm loving the cape flowing behind him.
Yeah, oh my gosh, I love how they put one on him just so he can get used to the feel of it. And then that's something I love looking at with the behind the scenes stuff when it comes to Star Wars. Like, if you think like the actors are just like kind of playing around with the lightsabers, no, they take the choreography like really serious, and they go at it like really hard, fast paced. It's really fascinating to look at.
If you guys, I know a lot of movies these days don't do like, well, they do release like behind the scene featurettes and stuff, usually leading up into this series. But I remember, Stuart, back for the prequels, how like DVDs and the Blu-rays, they would always put together these huge like behind the scenes packages and showing like the makings of the movies and stuff. Star Wars had some of the best documentaries for their and even like audio commentary for their DVDs back in the day. But the prequels, if you ever get the opportunity to check out a prequel documentaries or featurettes and stuff, please do yourselves a favor, because just seeing Hayden along with you and Train with their lightsabers for the prequels were incredible. And I'm kind of curious to know if in their age now, if they remember some of their moves. Like, I wonder if it's just like riding a bike for them, you know?
I remember like there was a magazine I had like as a really young kid back in the early 2000s, and it would show like some behind the scenes photos of like Ewan McGregor and Liam Neeson training with the I can't remember his name, but the actor who played Darth Maul. And yeah,
Oh yeah,
how
great part.
again like yeah, both of them, all three of them, just going all at it, you know.
Yeah, absolutely, man. Let's see here. What else we got? Oh, the movies. Can we transition over to Star Wars movies briefly?
Oh
Because
yeah.
we did get ourselves some new information here when it comes to the films. Let me go ahead and pull this up here. Sorry, I'm trying to bring up my comments real quick too, just to make sure I'm following everybody here properly. All right, let's dive into the movies a little bit. This is a Star Wars movie updates. Taika Waititi's film is next. Kathleen Kennedy addresses the status of Ryan Johnson's trilogy. That's still happening? My God. Okay, let's dive into this a little bit. We've got let's see here. It says, as part of Vanity Fair's big Star Wars piece about the franchise future of television, Lucas president Kathleen Kennedy has offered some updates on the status of Star Wars on the big screen. The biggest news is that Rogue Squadron has been pushed back in favor of bringing the unknown Star Wars project, directed and written by Taika Waititi, forward, although no official dates have in fact been set as of yet. It's been known for a while that director Patty Jenkins was committed to Rogue Squadron, but the project has been in a bit of a bind. Originally, the plan was for Matthew Robinson to get a script together quickly in order for the film to be ready by December 2023, but Lucasfilm instead opted to postpone the start of filming indefinitely due to development issues. Although Disney recently listed the movie as still being planned to make a 2023 release date, this article has now stated that will be arriving later than originally planned, with no release date given as of yet. Ultimately, the project is not canceled, and as of this time, both Jenkins and Robinson remain attached to the project. Jenkins has opted to step down from directing Cleopatra in favor of producing it, with word being that she'll now focus on directing Rogue Squadron and Wonder Woman 3. It says, with DC Films adjusting their slate of film projects, Jenkins may still have time to get Rogue Squadron done before she finishes off her Wonder Woman trilogy. Meanwhile, Taika Waititi is now set to have his Star Wars movie coming out before hers. Kathleen Kennedy expects that the project will take Rogue Squadron's place in terms of release order, as is an entitled Star Wars project from Taika Waititi, who is penning the script to the movie alongside with Christy Wilson Cairns. It says Waititi has dipped his toes into the realm of Star Wars before with the finale of the first season finale of The Mandalorian. Very is little known about the projects, but fans have assumed that it may cover the very distant past of the Star Wars galaxy due to the presentation announcing the project featuring a mysterious object that resembles a type of ship. I've never even seen that. Something prominently featured in the Dawn of the Jedi books. No release date has been given, but it can be presumed that Lucasfilm is hoping to get the film to take the 2023 December release date. It can make it work. That feels way too soon. That's like a year and a half away. So I don't know if that's necessarily going to happen. For fans hoping for the future of Solo on the big screen, sad to say, Kennedy clearly dashed those hopes with regard to trying to recreate iconic characters from Star Wars movies. She says, there should be moments along the way when you learn things. Now it does seem so abundantly clear that we can't do that. I'm assuming the idea of revisiting something like Solo. However, all isn't lost for solo enjoyers. The Lando spinoff starring Donald Glover remains in development for Disney Plus, though there weren't any updates in that expose on the television side of the equation. Let me see here. A bizarre note also that Kennedy seemed to act as though the standalone Star Wars project that Marvel Studios producer Kevin Feige is not officially on the cards, despite years of reports to the contrary and confirmation from multiple parties. She says, I would love to see that movie he might come up with, but right now, no, there isn't anything specifically. What do you take by that, Stuart? When I considering the fact that Michael Waldron recently, like as a couple of weeks ago, mentioned the idea that he was headlong into production for his Star Wars, or at least writing the Star Wars movie for Kevin Feige. It is interesting here that she does mention, I would love to see that movie he might come up with, but right now, no, there isn't anything specifically. I do wonder if this, for me, when I read that, I don't necessarily know if there's so much a disconnect between the two, so much as I think Kathleen Kennedy, for two things. One is very keeping a tight lip on things. And two, I think that this interview probably came months ago, or maybe even weeks ago before the Michael Waldron interview. So maybe at that time when they did ask her this question, they weren't that far along. But who knows? Maybe after this interview, like 2-3 days later, maybe she picked up the phone and called Kevin Feige, and they have more solid plans. What do you think by this, though? Do you think that there is some contradiction here, or do you think it's a case of one interview took place way longer prior to the other one?
I think that's a huge possibility. I also think it's another possibility that she probably wasn't allowed, or not necessarily wasn't allowed to say anything, but like she didn't really have anything prepared to say for that movie. So that's probably why she kind of needed to brush it over. Whereas like everything else, it seems like she has a huge plan on what specifically she wants to say about each individual project. That was just one she didn't prepare for.
That would make sense. You're probably right in that regards. She said they say the likely explanation is that Feige hasn't fully pitched his movie as of yet, although it's very likely that they will get made due to his efficiency as a producer and great reputation among Disney's top brass. It's happening. I just can't imagine Kevin Feige, this not happening for Kevin Feige. They also dive into Rian Johnson, believe it or not. It says, lastly, Rian Johnson's planned potential trilogy announced on a soft, sunny day back in 2017 has remained the subject of a lot of conversation due to the lack of status update on it despite years of development. Vanity Fair describes the project as being on the back burner, with Kennedy explaining that Johnson's existing commitments currently keep him from focusing on Star Wars. She says Rian Johnson has been unbelievably busy with Knives Out and the deal that he made at Netflix for multiple movies. So yeah, Rian Johnson's very much rather busy. So, you know, I don't know if this movie will ever see light of day. But I will say this, Stuart, she does give us a heads up in regards to the mindset when it comes to telling Star Wars stories going forward. She says, Kennedy noted that Lucasfilm has a sense of direction as to where they're headed. Whoa, that's a change of pace. And that fans shouldn't think of Star Wars movies in terms of conventional trilogy storytelling going forward, which may or may not apply to Johnson's planned films should they dial things back to a one movie at a time approach. She says, we have a roadmap. I hesitate to use the words trilogy anymore because Star Wars is much more about persistent storytelling, Stuart. So it does feel as though the idea of an episode 10, 11, 12, whether or not those stories are null and void, maybe they're not going to look at them that way. This feels more like they're kind of taking a Marvel formula in a sense of constant, persistent storytelling, moving forward, one-offs. Even though, don't get me wrong, Marvel definitely has their sentences of trilogies as well, but it's not like the Doctor Strange 1, 2, and 3 are all connected. And they're just pretty much adding to the bigger picture and this journey along the MCU that we're kind of going. And it kind of feels that way to me. So like when she mentions a Taika Waititi movie, a Rogue Squadron movie, you know, whether or not those are all going to be connected and pushing the story forward, it just definitely makes me feel as though trilogies are probably done and it's going to be much more, like she said, a more persistent storytelling. But it makes sense. It feels like that's the formula that's working these days, especially when you look at the MCU, and why not adopt that formula, you know?
Yeah. really hope that they kind of stick with that idea, like the idea of like just look ahead at least a few movies in advance. Don't try to plan everything out in advance, because if you do that, you'll end up with kind of Game of Thrones writing, which ends up starting strong but then finishing really weak. So I think like the best way to do it is to plan like a few movies in ahead, but don't get too ahead of yourself. Just kind of go, okay, if we do this here, we can set up this, and then we'll go from there.
I think you're right. And for me, I'm just really glad the idea that it feels as though they are certainly learning from their past mistakes.
Mm-hmm.
It seems as though they've had a very sort of come to Jesus moment in their life. And they definitely realize, like, man, we definitely have to make some changes here, certainly going forward. And I think they're probably onto something. Again, we'll see what the end result is going to be when it comes to Taika Waititi's movie, Rogue Squadron, Kevin Feige's potential movie as well. But I'm liking certainly what I'm hearing. It seems as though Kathleen Kenney's at least learning from their past mistakes. So I found that pretty interesting. And then last but not least, in regard, go ahead.
Oh yeah, I was just gonna say, yeah, it's one of those things where it is definitely kind of frustrating that like it took them until after the trilogy, because for a lot of Star Wars fans, it's the Skywalker saga that really matters the most compared to everything else. So it does suck that it took them until after they finished the sequel trilogy to realize maybe we should start thinking of our storytelling plans ahead of time. But it is good that it did eventually happen, and that we have like the really awesome Star Wars content that we have now with The Mandalorian and Book of Boba, and then everything coming out, in the future.
Yeah, absolutely, man. Absolutely. There's also another report going around. There's a couple other things here too that they talked about. I'm probably not going to get too heavy into it just because we are going kind of long with this. But there was one other aspect I wanted to bring up about the Vanity Fair article. They actually, I believe, announced that John Watts. We have been talking about John Watts over the past couple of weeks because he was originally scheduled to go ahead and be the director for the upcoming Fantastic Four movie. And if you guys recall, a couple of weeks back, we talked about the idea of him actually departing Fantastic Four, and kind of steppy excuse that they used, or the reasoning was, this guy's just exhausted. He's been doing blockbuster after blockbuster after blockbuster movie. I think he was like an indie filmmaker, right? I think he did a movie called Cop Car, and then immediately was thrusted into the spotlight to have to go ahead and direct the Spider-Man trilogy. And so after he did that and he steps down from Fantastic Four, the idea was this guy's been doing blockbusters for like the past 10 years. Like, this guy needs a break. He certainly needs to kind of step down and take some time for himself. But you know what, Stuart? This past week, they announced that John Watts is actually developing a Star Wars series. So I guess this guy is not as exhausted as we certainly thought that he was. The Vanity Fair article does go ahead and bring this up, so I did find this pretty interesting, but let's go ahead and dive into this. It does say that John Watts developing an Amblin-inspired Star Wars series. Earlier this year, it was reported that the director John Watts was attached to direct an untitled Star Wars series for Disney Plus. Now, in a recent Vanity Fair article, Lucasfilm's upcoming television slate, the first details for Watts' secret Star Wars series has been revealed, confirming the blockbuster filmmaker's role as creator and executive producer. This show comes after nearly a month since Watts announced his exit from the long-awaited Star Wars film. So he's looking to be the creator of this series and executive producer. The outlet further reveals that Watts is developing a coming-of-age adventure series inspired by the classic emblem films of the 80s. The untitled project currently has a temporary titled Grammar Rodeo, which is a nod to a Simpsons episode featuring Bart running away for a week with a stolen car. It says, set during the events after Return of the Jedi, the upcoming Disney Plus series has reportedly started sending out casting notices for 4 children around 11 to 12 years old. Joining Watts is writer Chris Ford, who previously worked with Watts on Spider-Man Homecoming. Stuart, I'm super excited for this, man. So we got John Watts, who did masterful work with the Star Wars, with the Spider-Man trilogy, now getting the opportunity to work on a Star Wars series where he's going to be the creator and executive producer to create a coming-of-age adventure series that's inspired by the classic '80s sort of coming-of-age stuff. And it said after Return of the Jedi. When I hear this, Stuart, the first thing for some reason that comes to mind, and I could be absolutely wrong, I get sort of Luke Skywalker's new Jedi Order vibes, like new Padawans, new apprentices, maybe learning the Jedi way, if you will. I wonder if these are some of his first pupils, first students. I love the fact that this is taking place after Return of the Jedi. That's kind of where I think they're maybe leading to, where this might be a focus of the kids as they try and become Jedi Knights. I'm not quite sure though, but what do you think when you hear this? What's your excitement level to see John Watts play in this sandbox?
Really excited. Whether or not they decide to go full on like kind of Jedi school, I guess you could say, is what it would be like, or if they decide to take their own unique direction by having them just be like kind of runaway kids or something like that.
Mm.
I think with John Watts behind it, it's going to be at the very least very entertaining. And it's going to definitely have some good humor as well. And I like the idea of a coming of age story within the Star Wars universe. Because I mean, we kind of get that with Luke Skywalker a little bit, but of course, it's a very small, like, kind of, he goes from being a farm boy to now he's immediately fighting in the rebellion. So it would be kind of cool to see that play out in the form of a TV show where it's like you're really seeing like kind of the younger kids of the Star Wars universe growing up.
Yeah, that would be fantastic to see. Also, I was hearing rumors that they were working on a High Republic series that focused also on kids around this age, but maybe the reports were wrong, and maybe this is exactly what he's working on, especially if they can reveal that it's coming out for after Return of the Jedi in that particular time period. And there's a huge time period to certainly still explore. I mean, we still have that 30 years between Return of the Jedi along with The Force Awakens, where so much certainly happens. So the idea of them trying to tap into that time period, I love it. I mean, don't get me wrong, I'm always a fan of Star Wars certainly pushing forward, but when you've got big gaps of time in between this Star Wars canon and timeline, I kind of want to see things fleshed out a little bit more and have some connective tissues to it. So I am really looking forward to seeing this Return of the Jedi coming of age series. And if there's anybody that is fantastic when it comes to casting and writing for kids that we saw in the Star Wars trilogy, the high schoolers and stuff. I think he's going to be fantastic when it comes to this as well.
And
So
I'm kind of
great pickup.
wondering if it is going to be like Luke's students basically. I'm wondering if that means we'll get like a really young Ben Solo.
Ooh, that would be pretty cool. Maybe a young Ben Solo. Who knows if Grogu comes back to the Order? I don't know if he would be in this series or not. But yeah, there's definitely a lot to certainly play with. So it should be interesting to kind of see how that shapes. But once we get more details in regards to John Watts stuff, we'll definitely go ahead and let you guys know. But other than that, Stuart, I think that's all the information we have for Star Wars, but great details, man. That Vanity Fair really impressed, and I think we have maybe like one or two other photos to go ahead and put up. And I would recommend that you guys check out the Vanity Fair article yourselves. Even though we gave you a breakdown, there's plenty of more information in there as well. Even talking about Jon Favreau and Dave Filoni coming together to put together The Mandalorian. They talked about the idea that Filoni was actually opposed to having Baby Yoda at first, until Jon Favreau really convinced them that they could certainly make it work. And you can see exactly what the end result of that certainly was. So I find the relationships and the intermingling with everybody in regards to making Star Wars work now fantastically well. And what's interesting too, Stuart, they've taken people that have already worked on these series like Taika Waititi, like Deborah Chow, and now thrusting them into positions of doing more things Star Wars related, right? The article talks about Taika Waititi doing the season finale for season 1 of The Mandalorian. Deborah Chow, I think, directed 2 or 3 episodes in season 1 also, and now they're gone on to do other things, with Deborah Chow doing the Obi-Wan Kenobi series and Taika now having his own movie. There's even been talks of people hoping that Bryce Dallas Howard, who's been doing a fantastic job with her episodes of The Mandalorian, to maybe get a Star Wars film of her own. So it definitely feels like they are molding and shaping these directors that want to play in this sandbox, to give them the opportunities to do so. You know, the article also mentioned, Stuart, the idea that for Kathleen Kennedy, that she wants to change the way of how they hire people to come on board. You know, before it was the case of people had this mentality that you come onto a Star Wars film for 1 or 2 years to go ahead and put it together and then leave, where it seems as though Kathleen Kennedy is trying to get these people that truly want to invest their time, asking for
Mhm.
4, 5 years of your time to not only develop it, but also maybe give you other opportunities to do more things, but really have a focus on what you're doing and not really skimping on details. They really seem like they want to take their time. And that's a really big departure from where the first sequel trilogy came and where they are right now. It definitely feels to me like Lucasfilm is learning from their past mistakes.
Yeah, for sure. And yeah, I like that idea too, bringing in people who have worked on other Star Wars projects in the past, and then people that want to stick with it for a while. With Bryce Dallas Howard, I heard a rumor that she might also be interested in directing the Fantastic Four movie. So if
Oh.
that ends up like I could see Disney Star Wars wanting to go one of two directions with that. Like they might see first how Fantastic Four turns out and then decide whether or not to bring her on board, or it could be that they want her to do a couple more Star Wars episodes before having her do Fantastic Four. But regardless, yeah, I definitely like that idea of just bringing in people who've already directed episodes to continue working on future Star Wars projects.
Yeah, absolutely. So guys, yeah, let us know your thoughts. You hear all these changes when it comes to Lucasfilm, how they're approaching things, some updates for the television series and from the movie. What project that Lucasfilm and Star Wars are currently working on that you're excited about? There's anything in these particular articles that really stood out to you, definitely go ahead and let us know your thoughts in the live chat or the comment section box below. And Stuart, with that, oh, you have comments or you had something you were going to say?
Huh? Oh, no, no.
Okay. So if anything with that, we will go ahead and move on to our next topic. Although, real quick, Enrique says is Star Wars Celebration might get first look at upcoming new seasons, Bad Batch, along with The Mandalorian, plus the new series of Ahsoka. I definitely expect a ton of trailers to certainly come out. I don't know if we'll see how far along Ahsoka is, but I do expect a brand new trailer for not only Obi-Wan. I expect another trailer for um uh Andor for sure. Maybe a tease about Ahsoka, and I'm hoping we do have some live action movie news for them to go ahead and reveal to us. But this starting Thursday should be rather interesting.
Ooh, last Star Wars thing I gotta say. How cool would it be to get Omega from the Bad Batch in like an upcoming episode of either The Mandalorian or Book of Boba?
Oh, to see like if how well with that'd be a pretty big time jump. I would be kind of curious to see how that character would change during that time for sure.
Mhm.
What else we got here? Let's go ahead and change course a little bit. We are going to dive into some DC talk for you guys. We got some big DC topics to go ahead and converse with you guys as the CW landscape continues to change, guys. Over the past couple of weeks, with the merger of Discovery and Warner Brothers, the potential selling off of the CW network, there definitely have been a lot of causes in regards to the cancellations and non-renewals of some of the CW shows that we've had in the past, especially as the Arrowverse continues to dwindle down each and every season. It certainly feels like when it comes to the CW. Well, unfortunately, guys, that certainly does not seem like it's going to change, as this past week we wind up getting ourselves the fall schedule for 2022 and maybe a little bit further clarification as to what the CW wants to be when it comes to its DC universe and heroes. So, Stuart, let's go ahead and talk about this fall schedule, because if you were, in fact, really excited for the idea of uh maybe some upcoming shows to look forward to this fall, maybe getting your fill of some superhero movies or superhero television shows when it comes to the fall schedule, you might have to wait a little bit longer, unfortunately. Let me go ahead and pull this up here for you guys. But this is, in fact, a brand new schedule beginning this upcoming fall. The Variety article has, in fact, reported this, and we'll go ahead and talk a little bit about this for you guys. It says the CW has announced its fall 2022 schedule, which will see Supernatural prequels Michael the Winchesters anchoring Tuesday nights. As you can see, Tuesdays, they got the Winchesters at 8 p.m., followed by the Professionals. It also says the series, which follows Sam and Dean's parents, will kick off Tuesdays and lead into the acquired series, The Professionals, starring Smallville alum Tom Welling. So Tom Welling comes back to the CW in some way, shape, or form. For the rest of the week, though, on Mondays, you've got All-American. Mondays is an All-American day. You got All-American and then All-American Homecoming. Wednesdays, though, the DC series Stargirl is being moved to a fall primetime slot. We're so used to it being sort of mid-season, late season for these Stargirl series, but it seems as though this DC series Stargirl is being moved to a fall primetime slot, kicking off the night at 8 p.m., followed by the third season of Kung Fu. So Stargirl on Wednesdays and then Kung Fu on that evening as well. And then Thursdays belongs to Jared Padalecki with Walker. And then they have the prequel series, Walker Independence, that's going to be dropping. So, yeah, All-American has a whole day to it on Monday, and Walker has a whole day to it on Thursday. And then, of course, you've got your other shows here. So we've only got literally one show when it comes to DC television that is, in fact, remaining. It says the CW also announced that Riverdale Season 7 will bow at midseason. So this midseason, Season 7 of Riverdale will be its last. There is also a new show. The DC show Gotham Knights is being held for mid-season. And we also did get ourselves a brand new logo for Gotham Knights as well, to kind of get an idea of what we can expect. So this has, in fact, been picked up. No longer is it just a pilot hoping to be greenlit. We are, in fact, going to be getting ourselves an entire series order, I'm assuming, of Gotham Knights here. But this is our very sort of first look at it, if you will. It also says, so Gotham Knights is being held for mid-season, and as are returning shows The Flash, Nancy Drew, and Superman and Lois. So it does say this fall schedule is a bit of a far cry from last season, which featured much of the original programming as opposed to acquired series. It comes after the CW has canceled several of its original scripted shows, like Legends of Tomorrow, Dynasty, and Naomi as well. So yeah, man, a big shift in regards to CW. So it looks as though the fall schedule is going to be kind of lackluster, unfortunately, kind of lackluster. But who knows? Maybe you guys are big fans of some of these shows. Maybe you're certainly looking forward to it. But if you are looking for your DC television shows this fall, unfortunately, when it comes to the CW, you're really only going to have Stargirl to enjoy, at least until mid-season, which is usually around that January time period. Once they usually come back from hiatuses, I would assume, if anything, that's when we're going to go ahead and get ourselves The Flash, Gotham Knights, along with Superman and Lois, and a couple other shows as well. So a little bit of a bummer, man. A little bit of a bummer, if you ask me. It's a lot is certainly changing when it comes to the CW, certainly going forward. And not much to look forward to this fall, unfortunately. But for those of you who are wondering what the future is certainly going to look like, the CW CEO and boss did at least come out recently and mention some things here to certainly look forward to. This, Stuart, to me, this feels more like he's hoping for things to, he says, we are staying in the superhero business. This feels more of a hope than an actual confirmation, though, it feels like to me. But it says, the downsizing comes as the CW is in the process of being sold to a station owner, Nexstar, and its current co-parent, Warner Brothers, which owns the DC brand, has been supplying the CW superhero shows, also just went through a merger as well. Where does the CW DC universe fit into that? During the network's upfront press call, the CW chairman and CEO, Mark Pedowitz, would not comment on WB's plans, but did speak about the network's intentions. And he says, for CW DC Universe, we have Gotham Knights. So we are staying in the superhero business. We are staying with Greg Berlanti, who has masterminded creatively the DC Universe. He says, we started with one, which was Arrow 10 years ago. And we have now moved on to create a whole bunch of superheroes, and we are very proud of it. We plan to stay in this business no matter what the outcome is in the events of a sale or no sale. I think the Warner side realizes the value of having these properties up. DC Comics realizes the value of what it does for their marketability in terms of what these franchises are. Legends created a whole new life for characters they may not have even existed or used. They had not seen the light of day. We have brought enormous value to DC and Warner Brothers in terms of realization of the universe Greg Berlanti and his team has created. He says, as far as we're concerned, we're interconnected because of the work Greg Berlanti and his team and will stay that way. So this feels very much like this almost feels like the CEO Stewart is pitching to Warner Brothers Discovery why they should continue to put their DC heroes on their show, talking about the properties they've helped build, the marketability it helps bring to their comic book slate of things. It's almost like, hey, I know you guys are taking some shows away, but we still have Gotham Knights here, so we're kind of trying to stay afloat. We have no plans on leaving the superhero business, so please, Warner Brothers Discovery, please keep utilizing us. If you truly think that DC Heroes is really what's going to boost the success of Warner Brothers Discovery going forward, we would certainly be a great outlet. So we plan on staying connected to Greg Berlanti and what they create. Maybe you guys can keep trickling over some hero content to us as well so we can help boost your marketability. That's kind of what it feels like to me here, in a sense, Stuart, that not there's so much of a plan, or that Warner Brothers Discovery and the CW are in fact going to continue to work together. There's a part of me that hopes so, but I feel like this is more of a plea towards Warner Brothers Discovery in hopes that they continue to keep utilizing DC heroes. What do you think, though, when you hear this?
Yeah, that sounds very much like what it is. It sounds very much like they're trying to kind of say that, yeah, we really want to stay in the superhero business, but what they can't say out loud is the idea that it really all depends on whether or not Warner Brothers Discovery continues to let us use a lot of these characters. I think like part of why they wanted to kind of clean up their slate a little bit is to kind of like because with Batwoman and Legends of Tomorrow being part of the Arrowverse, I think that's like one thing that they're trying to do is trickle down. They're trying to trim off the Arrowverse and then just trying to like kind of do a new line of DC shows where they're not all necessarily connected, because with Gotham Knights being in a separate universe and then same with Stargirl being in a separate universe, really the only two connected shows we have now are Superman and The Flash. So I feel like that's kind of the new direction they're going to try to push towards, is like the idea of still having more DC superhero shows, if Warner Brothers allows them. I just don't think they're as interested in keeping them into a connected world as they used to be.
Yeah, and you might be onto something there. I mean, you might absolutely be right. I think this will certainly come down to David Zaslav, the new CEO over at Warner Brothers Discovery, and see how they want to go about doing it, right? Because last week or the week before, we literally talked about how the streaming wars and the streaming services are really changing things. The idea of them not having that Netflix deal to continue to put content on the CW and not worry so much about ratings or anything like that, knowing that they were going to make money off of it anyway. So even if you were to sell off the CW, does Warner Brothers want to continue to put that content out there someplace else, and not maybe on their own streaming service of HBO Max? It will be interesting to kind of see if David Zaslav and them say, maybe we'll give you guys one or two, maybe three properties you can kind of play with on CW still. But we'll definitely see how that winds up turning out. But right now, it feels like maybe they're just trickling content to us slowly with the introduction of the new series Gotham Knights, and who knows what we'll wind up next season as well. How do you feel about the schedule, though, Stuart? You saw that Stargirl is really the only DC television show that we're getting for the fall, but a lot of their returning shows not coming until the mid-season. How do you feel about that?
Well, what disappoints me about that is finding out, if we're not getting Flash or Superman season 3, until next year, the only DC show we kind of have right now is Stargirl for the rest of this year, which makes me kind of think that, the idea of a 10-year anniversary special may not actually happen unless they do it on Stargirl, which I doubt, because, if you're going to do an anniversary, for, a franchise that you've had going on, it'd be really weird to celebrate it on a show that's like the most disconnected from those other shows.
Unless it's the case of they're planning on taking the opportunity for Stargirl being in the fall for season 3, and maybe they do plan on doing something pretty big for the anniversary. Like maybe this is a season that will maybe leak over because 2022, this is the 10th year. So if we go into 2023, that's technically the 11th year.
Yeah, or maybe
Okay.
not 11th, but like it would be it would be more than 10 years basically. Maybe not quite 11, but more than 10.
I get you. But this would probably be
Yeah.
the 10th year in regards to just season wise from 2022 to 23 type of thing, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so maybe they could probably still do something. It'll be interesting, but yeah, man, definitely a little bit of a lackluster fall for the CW. But we'll see how some of these other shows do, and whether or not the CW can certainly stay afloat with some of these superhero content going forward.
I'll say this. So I saw the trailer for the Walker spinoff series, and I think my biggest issue with it is that it's a Western, but it looks way too clean.
Oh,
And
okay.
I think it just comes down to it being a CW, and you want every shot to be very aesthetically pleasing. And because of that, it's really hard for me to take it seriously as a Western, you know?
I get you. Yeah, you definitely want your westerns to be gritty, or at least have that atmosphere and vibe to it. So, but yeah, I haven't had the opportunity to check out the trailer, but we'll see how it turns out. I am looking forward to the Winchesters, though.
Oh, yeah.
I definitely want to see how that series turns out. But yeah, guys, go ahead and let us know your thoughts. What do you feel about the situation when it comes to the CW? Stargirl for fall. The Flash, Superman, and Lois and Gotham Knights not until the mid-season. Are you excited for those particular series? Certainly go ahead and let me know your thoughts. And what do you think about the CEO of CW in regards to what he says? Does this give you hope that the CW will continue to put out more content? Or do you think this is them really just begging Warner Brothers to please give us some content to certainly work with going forward? Let us know your thoughts in the live chat or the comment section box below. And with that, guys, we'll go from television to the movie side of things. We actually,
Can I say one last thing though?
yeah, go for it. So,
Calling it now, and this is all 100% based on like kind of the photo that they released online to promote Gotham Knights. I'm calling it now. Gotham Knights is going to be Riverdale, but in Gotham City.
yeah, there's no costumes here whatsoever in this promo. Some interesting characters that they're definitely introducing. I am a little bit bummed that we're not getting somebody like a Damian Wayne or whatever the case may be. I believe they are actually creating a brand new character in regards to Batman's sort of adopted son, if you will. So they definitely are taking some liberties in creating new content for this Gotham Knights. So I'm not expecting it to connect to the video games whatsoever. I do think this is going to be its own unique take. So not the best first impression. I mean, it's cool and all, really, really mysterious sort of logo, but I definitely want to see a little bit more before I get hyped for this show.
I will definitely admit I was wrong because I thought I can't even remember the name. Like it's something Turner, like is the adopted son of Bruce Wayne.
Uh-huh.
I thought that was just kind of a production name, like because they wanted to hide who he was actually playing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think it's safe to say that I was definitely incorrect on that. So it seems like they're really just kind of giving you like an original character for like Bruce Wayne's adopted son, and I guess you're gonna have to assume that in this universe, Stephanie Brown, it might be his only Robin that he's had, and that's even assuming that she is a Robin in this universe and not just another kid playing detective.
Well, they also have Carrie Kelly, I believe.
Sorry, Carrie Kelly. That's who I meant. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I mean, I mean, who knows? Maybe there's a Stephanie Brown in here too, for all I know. I have no idea, but we'll definitely keep you guys posted as we get more details. Yeah, from the television side of things, Stuart, to the movie side of things, because there's a shakeup everywhere that you look when it comes to Warner Brothers Discovery. Let's go ahead and dive into this article. This is something that we were going to go ahead and announce for you guys maybe about a week or so ago, but unfortunately we did not have an episode of Hero Report, as this was actually reported by the hashtag show about 2 or 3 weeks ago, maybe like the very beginning of May. I think it dropped I think they reported this May 2nd, but bigger news sites like Variety and Deadline and Hollywood Reporter are now just picking up on this. But this comes to us from the Hollywood Reporter to let us know. You remember that series, Stuart, or that movie that we talked about, Wonder Twins, that looked like it was getting ready to go ahead and start filming any minute now? Yeah, man, it's been shut down. It's been canceled. So no Wonder Twins movie. It's been officially shut down by Warner Brothers. It says Riverdale star KJ Appa and the 1883 actress Isabel May were going to star in the HBO Max feature that was due to start shooting in July. I mean, we were talking about the idea of them casting already, and I'm like, oh my god, they are really moving ahead with this movie very quickly. I was kind of surprised. But the new CEO came in and said, "Pump those brakes, guys. Pump those brakes. We gotta look at what you guys are creating." And so this will definitely give us an insight in regards to the trajectory of what David Zaslav, the new CEO, really wants out of their movies. But the Hollywood Reporter says the Wonder Twins has been deactivated. The DC-based feature project, which was to begin production in early July, has been shelved, according to multiple sources. The project was being developed as a feature for HBO Max, and it had the Riverdale and 1883 stars attached. David Zitskill, I don't know, who worked on the script for Dwayne Johnson's Black Adam, wrote the Wonder Twins script and was due to direct as well. Sources say, though, the decision to shut down the project I'm sorry. Let me start that over again. Sources say the decision to shut the project down occurred several weeks ago. According to insiders, the leadership of Warner Brothers Discovery, the new company combining Discovery and Warner Brothers and now led by CEO David Zaslav, is imposing a mandate that DC movies should now be made with a theatrical first goal. Wonder Twins, the way that it had been conceived, was too niche, said one source. So David Zaslav says DC movies, the first mentality is theatrical first. When I hear this, Stuart, this says to me that Batgirl is probably going to move off of HBO Max and finally be released and scheduled. They haven't announced that yet, but just based off of David Zaslav's mentality, it feels like he understands the importance of these characters and wants them to flourish on the box office. It says at the same time, one source said the budget was too high for what is considered an HBO Max movie. Twins was looking at a $75 million budget, but according to sources, Zaslav wants to keep HBO Max original movies $35 million and under. He has concluded that higher budgeted offerings do not add enough value. An example, add a significant number of subscribers, and more modestly budgeted movies tend to do the job of retaining subs. Original theatrical movies, however, do a gangbuster job of attracting subscribers, and the Batman being a huge hit for the service, according to several sources. Before we move on, Stuart, what are your thoughts in regards to his decision making and his mindset in regards to HBO Max original movies and their budgets and the idea of theatrical movies?
Honestly, I kind of like that idea. Like, if it is more than $35 million, like, why not just release it in theaters to, to like a full on audience? And plus, like, not to mention the fact that, like, if it's really subscribers that you're after, and you want to have like the high budget movies to advertise that, you can still do like a simultaneous, I don't know why I have such a hard time saying that word. Simultaneous, release with HBO Max and with movie theaters, or at the very least do what the Batman did, give it a theatrical run for like a month or two, and then just have it come to HBO Max a lot sooner than other projects. I feel like regardless, you're still going to get more subscribers that way. And yeah, it'll be perfect for people that have no desire to watch it in the movie theaters and just want to wait for it to come on HBO Max. You're giving them a not too big of a window of having to wait before that opportunity comes their way,
Yeah, absolutely. And for me, I think the wait used to be like 90 days. I think after its theatrical release, then it would probably hit like on demand. But with the Batman, I think HBO Max cut that time period to like 45 days or something like that. And I really enjoyed it, man. I think they kept the movie in there long enough to where it made a ton of money, which was fantastic for it as well. And then releasing it on on HBO Max, word of mouth alone wind up bringing people in as new subscribers compared to the plan that they had previously, where it's like, hey, we're gonna release these simultaneously, or we're gonna release these only on HBO Max. Clearly, they see the benefit of not doing that any further, and the idea of them, they really have been shooting themselves in the foot over the past year. And it seems as though David Zaslav certainly has a completely different mindset. He also says a lot of things that were developed are going to go away, said another insider, referring to the broader scrutiny that is coming to the slate of many Warner's divisions, including films. And this is what we talked about, Stuart, the idea that if you're not already in front of the camera filming and in production, if you're still in just that developmental phase, there's a chance that things are going to go away. I was even hearing rumors of the Zatanna film maybe even hitting the chopping block also. So we'll definitely keep you guys posted. Nothing confirmed in that, but we'll definitely go ahead and keep you posted. But I kind of like
I really hope not for Indy's sake, because he'd be really disappointed about that.
Yeah, he would definitely be absolutely just destroyed if Zatanna certainly didn't get her movie, unfortunately. But this is just making sense to me. I really do love new management in town. They're really not taking any crap. It definitely feels like he knows what he certainly wants to be. Doesn't want to put too much money in regards to the HBO Max movies, in regards to budget, trying to keep things down a little bit, understanding that though that type of content really keeps subscribers around, it continues to build it. And the idea of utilizing, again, their DC properties that Zaslav has mentioned is truly the goal for them to utilize, the idea of pushing those into the box office. Because right now, these days, Stuart, it feels like the only movies that are really making a great profit is superhero movies in the theaters. I feel like non-superhero movies really struggle in the box office these days.
Yeah, I feel like a lot of them kind of make their profit really when they come to on demand, and people just end up watching them either by renting the movie or just watching it through whatever streaming service it ends up getting released on.
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, man, a lot of changes are certainly coming. I wouldn't be surprised if we've got more cancellations for you guys next week to certainly announce, or at least new trajectory for some of their projects. And would you assume that this means Batgirl is probably moving theatrically?
Yeah, you know what? I'm gonna say yeah for now. It could change, of course, later on, but my fingers are crossed that it happens.
Me too. It just feels like too big of a
Yeah.
movie to not put out there, but we'll definitely keep you guys posted.
I guess the
Okay.
one thing that does kind of worry me about the whole thing though is what he means by, has to feel like number one box office, because like it is like I think the safe assumption would be that he means he doesn't want anyone phoning in a script basically when it comes to a DC movie. But what it also could mean is that if they're doing something very different that you don't normally see in a traditional superhero movie, like those are the type of scripts that could also get rejected. And I really hope that's
Mhm.
not the case.
Mhm.
I really hope what he means is he doesn't want scripts or things like that are just being phoned in. He wants it to be something where it's like someone's actually putting work into the script and trying to make a good movie out of it.
Yeah, absolutely. And you know what I also heard, Stuart? I also heard this week there was a website called Puck, I think puck.com. I'm not quite sure, but they had an article in there talking to Alan Horn. I don't know if the name Alan Horn rings a bell to anybody, but he used to work alongside good old Bob Iger and Kevin Feige, helping put together the Marvel Studios and the MCU in regards to, I believe before, I think Alan Horn, if anything, really helped mold and shape Kevin Feige into the role that he's at now. Whereas I believe Alan Horn retired and Kevin Feige took over his role. But what I'm hearing is that David Zaslav from Warner Brothers, according to Alan Horn, they have had conversations. They have been talking, and he's been thinking about the idea of maybe even bringing in Alan Horn to kind of help shepherd, or at least maybe be a consultant of some sort to maybe help get the DCEU back on course. And if you ask me, if you want somebody that's got experience in doing just that, somebody like an Alan Horn is the perfect man for the job, if you ask me, and really helping DCEU sort of right the ship and maybe finally go down that Marvel formula path. But from what I've been hearing, again, Alan Horn mentioned this himself, that him and Zaslav have been having conversations and they may be working closer together even going forward. That's inspiring to me, Stuart, hearing that news.
Dude, that would be really sick. I guess hope for the best.
Yeah, absolutely, man. Absolutely. But guys, let us know your thoughts in regards to the ever-changing landscape of the DCEU. Let your thoughts be known in the live chat or the comment section box below. And with that, Stuart, we will go ahead and move on to our next topic as we dive into some Marvel news for you guys today. As listen, this has been a rumor going around for quite some time. I think ever since we got the return of good old Charlie Cox in Spider-Man No Way Home, even getting the opportunity to see good old Vincent D'Onofrio pop up in the Hawkeye series, especially since Netflix no longer had the rights to these Marvel MCU shows any longer, and them now moving over to Disney Plus. There have been rumors and things and talk speculating for quite some time that we would be getting ourselves a new Daredevil series. And Stuart, it seems that is in fact the case, ladies and gentlemen. Let's go ahead and dive into this article as this comes to us from good old Variety, letting us know that Disney. A Daredevil Disney Plus series is currently in the works with Matt Corman along with Chris Ord, certainly set to write. And this is an exclusive report from Variety, guys. It says a new Daredevil series is moving forward at Disney Plus, with Variety having exclusively learned from sources that Matt Corman and Chris Ord are attached to write and executive produce. Rumors have persisted for some time that Disney Plus series about the Man Without Fear was in the works, especially considering the two stars, Charlie Cox and Vincent D'Onofrio, have appeared in recent Marvel projects. Cox once again played Matt Murdock, and D'Onofrio played the Kingpin. It now appears that the project is picking up steam with hiring of Corman and Ord, although Marvel has yet to announce anything regarding the show formally. Corman and Ord have worked on previously the U.S. network series Covert Affairs for about 4 or 5 seasons together. They also were co-showrunners for the NBC drama The Enemy Within and The Brave, as well as the CW series Containment. So these two have definitely worked together before, and they're looking to go ahead and come together for this Daredevil series as well. So it's happening, Stuart. They're picking up steam here. Charlie Cox is in fact going to be coming back from Daredevil. I'm not quite sure whether or not this is actually picking up like as a season 4 from the previous Netflix stuff, or if they're just going to be creating just brand new stories kind of going forward, maybe with a few connective pieces to the Netflix series itself. But I'm excited, man. We've been asking for Charlie Cox to come back as Daredevil. The MCU has officially listened here. I'm not too familiar with Matt Corman and Chris Ord. I haven't seen any of their particular shows, but I might dabble in their more current one, which I believe is The Enemy Within from 2019. I think I look back on that. So I might want to go ahead and check it out just to kind of get a feel for what type of vibe they might bring to the Daredevil series. But for me, this certainly gives me hope. What about you, Stuart? What's your anticipation level for this series now that we're getting more information from it?
Oh, I'm so excited this show is coming back, dude. Daredevil is still today my favorite Marvel show. Like, as much as I love all the current Marvel shows with their, with the big budget and everything like that, I don't think they ever got better than Daredevil. So finding out that they're finally bringing this show back with, of course, Vincent D'Onofrio and Charlie Cox is super exciting. And like you said, I have no idea if this is going to be kind of like a low-key season 4 or if it's going to be like completely ignoring the events of Daredevil seasons 1 through 3. I hope they don't ignore it, but at the same time, if they want to treat this as a reboot that's more like in line with what you would normally see in the MCU, I'm totally cool with that too. As long as we got Charlie Cox back as Daredevil, Vincent D'Onofrio back as Kingpin, and really hoping we can get the other 2 actors back as, Foggy and Karen as well. I'll watch it, and Disney Plus, take my money, because this is what I've been wanting to see from Disney for quite some time now. Ever since they canceled it on Netflix, I've been wanting to see like what Daredevil could look like under the lens of a MCU project. So same exact kind of setting, but now with a bigger budget. Now with being able to do a lot more with the stunts of Daredevil, because as big of a budget as the Netflix show had, you could see, because they were doing it all on location, they were very limited on what they could do in terms of stunts when it comes to like kind of the more comic booky stunts from Charlie Cox. Because it's not like you could really have any wire foo in there. But now that you got that Disney money, they can afford to do it both on location and in studio, so we can could still get a mixture of both those amazing grounded single take fights that we got from the original series, and we can get a mixture of some really fun, like over the top wire fu action that we get in other MCU projects. So, this gets me excited. The possibilities are endless, and I want this to be out already.
Yeah, man, I'm really looking forward to this. I'm super pumped too. Good old Marcelino does ask, do you think the entire cast will be recast aside from Daredevil, or would Disney Marvel try to bring back any of the actors from the Netflix show? They haven't confirmed anything, but I'm really hoping that they bring back these actors. I love the actor that played Foggy Nelson. I would love to certainly see him come back. Even Karen would be fun too. So I do hope that they have a secondary life on Disney Plus for sure. And when it comes to me, look, man, I gotta say, I am interested to see how like the tone and the vibe of this particular series. And I'm curious to pick your brain too, Stuart, in regards to what you thought with Moon Knight in regards to them pushing the envelope. I remember back a couple months ago in an Empire magazine, Kevin Feige said, Moon Knight's not going to hold any punches, man. We're bringing in the Netflix series, right? That we're TVMA. I think Disney Plus was adding literally an adult content or like a mature section for like parents. You can put either parental guidance or whatever the case you want on your accounts and stuff, or they were at least opening up the idea to not everything being solely TV 14, allowing more mature audiences to certainly enjoy some of their content. And Kevin Feige really pushed the idea that Moon Knight was really going to kind of open those doorways as we wind up getting into sort of like those Marvel Knights and those darker MCU characters, right? I think we're kind of under the impression that something like a Moon Knight would maybe open the doors for like a Werewolf by Night or maybe like a Blade series to really push the envelope in what you can do for PG-13. I am kind of curious of what you felt, if you felt Moon Knight did that for the MCU or if it was still kind of held back a little bit. I have seen some people worried, like, hey, if we're just going to get a Disney Plus watered down version of the Daredevil series, then I'm probably not going to watch it, which for me, I'm going to watch it regardless. I do think the MCU has proven to me that despite the characters that they have, whether they're lighthearted or dark-hearted, they are able to bring a certain tone and an atmosphere to the series that really works for me. While I don't necessarily think it was like extremely brutal, and like, blood soaked in Moon Knight, I did think that they thought they did some really interesting things alone with the pacing and the tone that really made Moon Knight feel darker than a couple of other things that we've done before. So I am hoping that they could probably capture that same attention to detail when it comes to Daredevil. So will it be watered down? Perhaps, but I do think storyline, character-wise, I think all of that will certainly be there to the point to where I may not even notice the significant difference between what they did on Netflix and what they're doing here in the MCU. But maybe I'm wrong, but I understand the hesitancy that some people have. Is that something you think people should certainly worry about, Stuart? Or did you see Moon Knight and you were able to see what Kevin Feige was talking about, or not really?
I kind of saw what he was going for with Moon Knight. I kind of saw what he meant by it being kind of like the more darker side of a PG-13 movie. But I also saw it before that with Falcon and the Winter Soldier, because I thought thematically some of the areas that they went to were definitely a lot darker than other areas that we've explored in the MCU prior. So with those two shows in particular, if that was like kind of the direction they really wanted to take Daredevil, I would totally be okay with that. I think there's a chance we could still get this series being TVMA, though, because they brought in the Netflix shows onto Disney Plus for a reason.
Right.
I feel like they're really kind of testing audiences to see what they would prefer with bringing back Daredevil. Would they still watch it if it went for like a darker PG-13 aspect like Moon Knight or Falcon and the Winter Soldier? Or would they, could we keep it as an MA series and still get, a good amount of people watching it, despite it, being MA on a kind of family-friendly channel. So I think the answer to that is really going to depend on what the overall ratings were for Moon Knight, and then what the overall consensus was from most people who have watched the show, which me personally, I really enjoyed Moon Knight. And if that was the direction they wanted to take Daredevil, I wouldn't be opposed to it too much. But at the same time, part of me does kind of hope they keep it MA. But regardless, I don't think it'll be watered down. I think even if it has a TV-14 rating, I think saying that it's going to be watered down would be doing like a disservice to what the show's going to have, because Daredevil wasn't a well-written show because it was R-rated. It was a well-written show because it was just well-written, and it just happened to be R-rated. If they gave it a PG-13 like kind of rating, and they had to like redo some of the writing in Daredevil, I still think it could have been as good of a show with a PG-13 rating, personally.
That's a good point. It's not necessarily the rating that makes the show. It's really the content and the storyline and characters that you certainly have behind it that really take it where it needs to go. So you're absolutely right in regards to that, because I think some people were even surprised when Moon Knight came in as like PG-13 or like that TV-14, because I don't believe it's a TVMA. I could be wrong. I'll have to go back and certainly check it out. But I still thought, despite that, Moon Knight was still a great series, if you ask me. I thought they did the character some amazing justice. So if that's the type of storytelling that we're going to get, I'm again, in the MCU, I certainly trust to go ahead and certainly deliver. But the fact that fans have asked for this, the MCU is listening, Daredevil is certainly coming to Disney Plus series. If anything, I'm going to be really intrigued to kind of see who they have as. I'm assuming these two guys are going to be the showrunners, maybe leading the writing for the entire series. But I will be curious to see who the director is going to be, to really see what type of tone they're going to go ahead and bring.
Whoever did the fight choreography for all those one shot scenes, I really hope
bring them back.
Yeah, I hope they bring them back, because like those were some of the most incredible fight scenes in any television show, period. So at least bring them back for like one episode or two, so they can have another fight like that, for fan service.
Yeah, that would be pretty fantastic. Side comment here from Enrique: is Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness going to be on Disney Plus? Absolutely, absolutely. Any Marvel movie, definitely expected to be on Disney Plus within a short amount of time. But yeah, guys,
probably be like the IMAX edition too, so it'll have like the expanded aspect ratio and that kind of stuff. Be super clear, crystal quality. It's gonna be nice.
Definitely, yeah. So I'm pretty sure there's no release date as to when it's coming to Disney Plus, but we'll definitely keep you posted once it does. But guys, let us know your thoughts. Daredevil series for Disney Plus is happening. We've got a writing duo attached to it. What's your level of anticipation? What things you're worried about? What things are you anticipated for? Go ahead and let us know your thoughts in the live chat or the comment section box below. And Stuart, with that, we've got two last topics we're going to go ahead and dive into for you guys today. One of them comes from the realm of the Masters of the Universe world, as we dive into a little bit of live action series talk here. As a few years back, maybe about 5 or 6 years ago, there was this animated series on Netflix called She-Ra. I don't know if you've had the opportunity to check it out, Stuart. I believe you might have looked at a couple episodes. I've heard some very glowing things from the 5 seasons of the She-Ra animated series, and it really kind of helped put She-Ra certainly back on the map, so much so that it seems as though more She-Ra is certainly headed our way, and not so much on the animated side of things, but this time around, Stuart, live action, as it seems as though Amazon plans on getting into the fray a little bit here. This comes to us from good old Variety.com, letting us know that the She-Ra live action Amazon series has found its director, or at least a director, said that Nicole Castle is in fact set to write, is in fact set to direct. This is an exclusive report from Variety. It says the She-Ra live action series in development at Amazon has brought on Nicole Castle to direct. Variety has learned exclusively. Variety previously reported that the show was in early development at the streamer back in September of 2021. Castle will direct and executive produce the pilot episode should it go forward. No writer is currently attached, so they are very much in early development still. It does say Nicole Castle previously directed and executive produced multiple episodes of the HBO series Watchmen, which she actually earned an Emmy nomination and a DGA award. So she's also worked on Westworld, The Leftovers, The Americans, and Castle Rock as well. So she definitely has a plethora of experience under her belt. It does say that the DreamWorks Animation will serve as executive producer on She-Ra after recently producing the Netflix animated series She-Ra and the Princess of Power. However, the live action version will be a new standalone story and will not connect to the animated series. And it does say that this would be the first live action adaptation for the She-Ra character. I will say this, Stuart, the idea of DreamWorks Animation being attached to this as a producer does certainly give me hope. While it's not going to connect to the animated series, I think if anything, DreamWorks probably has a great foundation of the type of story that they want to tell and really probably know how to capture this character well, especially after 5 seasons of it over on Netflix. So even though we've got a new director coming on board for the pilot episode, apparently they're going to eventually attach some writers in here. I think the idea of what DreamWorks was able to do on the Netflix animated series should hopefully give us confidence that going into live action, hopefully they'll certainly keep, if not the same premise, then at least the same mindset as to who they believe She-Ra certainly is, and can really translate that even better to live action. So I'm at least glad that even though they're not carrying over the same storyline, that we are getting people that are familiar with this particular franchise handling She-Ra as live action. And while I haven't watched this She-Ra series yet, I have checked out the trailer. The trailer alone for this She-Ra animated series makes me want to watch it. It's something I'm kind of curious to go back and check out. But anybody that I've talked to that has checked out She-Ra has nothing but glowing comments to certainly say about it. Have you heard anything like that, Stuart? And what are your thoughts about She-Ra finally getting a live action series if everything continues to go smoothly?
Yeah, I actually really liked the She-Ra series. It starts out very much like kind of your typical kids television show. Like, it's definitely one of those shows that takes like a few episodes to really like kind of get into it. But once it gets going and once you really get into the series, it's a really well written series with some characters that have a really awesome chemistry and dynamics and that kind of stuff. So yeah, I definitely do recommend watching the series. And even the last season gets surprisingly like really emotional, like towards the end. Like, the stakes really do feel big. And it's too bad because I remember like both Kevin Smith and I keep forgetting the showrunner's name were both interested in doing like kind of a crossover, but it doesn't seem like that's ever going to happen. But it would have been pretty cool that if they were able to pull that off.
Yeah, I feel like from what I've heard, it feels very much like they've taken She-Ra and kind of separated her from the Masters of the Universe world. Is that true?
It really feels like that, kind of looking at both Masters of the Universe and She-Ra as a whole. Because with She-Ra, from what I hear, they actually straight up weren't allowed to reference anything like too related to He-Man because of like licensing issues. So it seems like they had kind of a DC Marvels thing kind of going on in terms of they're licensing out the characters, not the world.
Gotcha. I see what you're saying. That definitely makes sense for sure. And it's just fascinating to me to see where we are in this time period where we've both had a Masters of the Universe animated series, and now both of these characters are finally getting some sort of live action interpretation. I think She-Ra will probably make it to the small screen before we get to see anything He-Man related. I just feel like there's always been so many obstacles when it comes to Masters of the Universe. But I'm kind of looking forward to this, man. I really want to see who they cast as She-Ra, and really to see who's going to be attached as the writer for this. And Amazon's been continuing to prove itself when it comes to series, that there are no slouches, that good old Jeff Bezos is not afraid to put money towards these productions, because we do have the Lord of the Rings certainly set, and there were a couple other big Amazon series we've announced before. So this feels oh, that's right, I think they're even thinking about doing the Voltron live action movie on Amazon as well too. So they're really getting into these the 80s content and things like that. So we'll see how it turns out, man. But live action series, it's continuing to push forward as they found their pilot episode director. We'll definitely keep you guys up to date in regards to new information that drops for this series.
I'm actually kind of thinking too with them bringing in DreamWorks Animation, but not as like kind of writers and not to directly connect it to the animated series. I think what it is though is to know like what it is that the fans really like about the series, so they can prevent themselves from making any like big mistakes that would essentially cause the fans to like already hate this movie before even going into it. That would be my assumption of why they brought in like DreamWorks Animation to kind of help produce it. one other thing I gotta kind of brag about here because this was kind of cool. So at WonderCon, my girlfriend, she went as She-Ra, but from the prom episode. If you've watched the show, you'll know what I
Okay.
mean. But yeah, she had a really cool costume going on, and the night before, she was like super nervous that it wasn't going to look very good, like that. It didn't turn out the way she wanted it to. But as we're walking there, we have this one lady kind of go, "Oh my gosh, I love your costume!" So she asked if she could take a photo of her, and she takes a few. And it turned out she was actually one of the producers on the show.
Oh shit, that's cool.
Yeah.
That's pretty cool. Well, hey, if your girlfriend needs a live action job, you know what I'm saying? Maybe she can help her get a role.
Oh, you know what? I'll email Amazon right now.
Yeah, send some photos. Be like, look, we met the producer, man. Like, we're set to go. Just hire us. But that's pretty cool, man. But yeah, guys, let us know your thoughts. Live action She-Ra series might be coming to us from Amazon. We'll definitely keep you guys posted once new information winds up dropping. I'm really looking forward to that, honestly. And last but not least, guys, we got one last topic, but one that should certainly be fun because I feel like, Stuart, this is a movie that anybody that has watched it has had a great time watching this movie and have probably been asking for a sequel or some kind of it for years. That's League of Extraordinary Gentlemen, ladies and gentlemen, from the plethora of fantastic characters. We had some great actors from the original movie, but it seems as though when it comes to League of Extraordinary Gentlemen, there might be a reboot on the horizon. And just where we're at these days with superhero movies and big ensemble casts, maybe a reboot for League of Extraordinary Gentlemen is what the world needs right now. We'll see, though. I'm kind of curious to know your guys' thoughts, but let's dive into this article, Stuart. This comes to us from Deadline.com, saying that the League of Extraordinary Gentlemen set for a reboot from 21st Century Studios, along with Hulu as well. It says the 20th Century Studios is developing a reboot of the League of Extraordinary Gentlemen for Hulu. It says the movie was a fantasy pick released by the 20th Century Fox back in 2003, based on the comic book series of the same name from writer Alan Moore and artist Kevin O'Neill. Set in an alternate Victoria Age world, it followed a group of famous contemporary fantasy, science fiction, and adventure characters, including Captain Nemo, Dorian Gray, and Tom Sawyer, as they teamed up on a secret mission. It says the League of Extraordinary Gentlemen comics was first introduced in 1999. Stephen Norton directed the original film adaptation starring Sean Connery, which was reputed to be the reason he retired from acting after he wound up doing this movie. So miserable was his experience on set, according to them. James Dale Robinson wrote the script, they wind up bringing out the rest of the cast member. It says, while multiple attempts at a League reboot have been made in the past, with one conceived as a female-centric take, they've thus far been to no avail. So it says BAFTA Award nominee Justin Haith will adapt the script this time around. So they do have somebody set as a writer already for this series. Stuart, in today's day and age, how do you feel about a League of Extraordinary Gentlemen reboot set for Hulu?
So I've actually never seen this movie, but
What?
the only bit of trivia I know about it, and this might have been like what contributed to him retiring from acting, is the fact that he turned down Lord of the Rings for this movie. Like, he was originally asked to play Gandalf, and he thought that the idea of being in a fantasy movie, he was like above that, so that was why he chose to do this movie. And I guess that ended up being one of the biggest mistakes in his acting career, because of course, history shows this movie didn't do quite as well as Lord of the Rings, unfortunately. But
It
yeah,
didn't? No?
oh no. But regardless, having not seen the movie, but knowing what the concept is, I do think a TV show on Hulu would actually be perfect for a concept like this. So, I will definitely check out at least the very first episode when the show does premiere on Hulu.
Well, this looks like this is going to be a movie.
A movie. Okay.
Yeah, it looks like it's going to be a complete reboot. So it does look very much like a Hulu original movie. For me, I will say this. I think this movie is going to come down to the cast. You know, I think when you start talking about, hey, we're going to focus on, you know, these classic characters that in 2022, I feel like nobody knows about. Captain Nemo, who the fuck is that? Dorian Gray, who's that? Tom Sawyer, who's that? Well, I know who these people are. You know, it is one of those things. I don't know. Do people read books anymore? Like, do people read half of these old adventures from back in the day? So I do wonder, like, relevancy. Are these characters even relevant to today for people to really fall back on? Which I do think that they probably very much can be, but I think the trick to getting people to actually come out and see it in theaters is going to be the cast. I think if you can really attach some really great names, if people aren't familiar with who Dorian Gray is, but say they got a Timothy Chalamet attached to it, they're like, I'm gonna check out that damn movie. I'm gonna see who's putting this cast together. So I think if you can get a good ensemble cast, I think you could really do something great with the story here. I've always been interested of the idea of being able to take these contemporary characters, these sci-fi characters, and put them all into their own adventure. Leave it up to the brilliant mind of Alan Moore to think of something like this. He's such a fantastic writer. I do hope that this does get the opportunity to shine a little bit more in hopefully a successful reboot. But I do think the key here is in fact the cast. But I could be wrong.
I think one of the key things that you brought up was the relevancy part. And the thing is, I feel like nowadays, even if something feels kind of dated, there's not really an excuse of it not being relevant now, because you can kind of take any stories and find a way to make it relevant into today's time. And as for the characters, even if they're characters that are like really old, that like maybe not every young viewer is going to recognize, I feel like if you're doing your job right, you know, with making a movie about that character, that's going to happen is you're going to encourage them to go back and look at like kind of some of these novels of where they originated from.
Absolutely, absolutely, because I do think they have some really rich characters. Again, it really just comes down to, you know, do people feel connected to them still? You know? And so I do agree with you. I think as long as the script does its job, they definitely can make these characters certainly relevant again. And if anything, it'll be interesting to kind of again depending on what the script is going to be like. I am kind of curious if they can make these characters relevant to today's day and age and make those connective pieces for us to certainly care about them. But regardless, I was a fan of the first one. At least it was fun. It's not something I'm right home about, to certainly say the least, but there were certainly some aspects about the movie that I certainly enjoyed. But what did you guys think? Did you like League of Extraordinary Gentlemen? Are you open to the idea of a reboot? How familiar are you with these characters? And is there anything that in particular you guys would like to see? Certainly go ahead and let us know your thoughts in the live chat or the comment section box below. And I am kind of curious if this movie is even available on streaming service right now. I'm kind of curious where it's available, because I would suggest checking it out, Stuart, for yourself and letting us know what you think, man.
All right. Let me Google it now and see if it's on anything.
Yeah, see if you can find it anywhere in particular. But yeah, guys, definitely go ahead and let me know your thoughts. And with that, I think we will wrap up all of our topics. Don't worry, we will certainly go back and add some timestamps here for you guys that watch the show a little bit later, so you can certainly jump around to wherever you certainly need to.
It's on HBO Max, so I might check it out.
League of Extraordinary Gentlemen on HBO Max. If you haven't had the opportunity to check out the film, check it out and see, do you want a more updated reboot? Definitely go ahead and let us know your thoughts in the live chat or comment section box below. And with Stuart's, with that out of the way, I think you know what time it is, sir.
It is time for live viewer questions.
Let's go ahead and get
Never
into
gets
this.
old.
Never gets old, man. We do have a plethora of questions here for you guys. If anything, man, somebody joined our Patreon yesterday. I thought I shut that down.
Oh, wow.
I guess not. Maybe I should go back and check it out. We do have a bunch of questions here from you guys because of the fact that we've kind of been off and on over the past couple of weeks in regards to it. So we're going to go ahead and try and get through some of the all the live viewer questions. What we don't get through today, if anything, I did speak with Stuart. He may go ahead and make a separate live viewer question video for you guys, answering the remainder of your questions later on this week. So we'll definitely get through what we can, and what we don't, Stuart will definitely go ahead and tackle for you guys this week.
Okay, I just thought of an idea, but I need to get your permission before doing it because
Okay.
I don't want to do anything with the channel that would piss you off.
Okay.
What if I did a wake and bake tomorrow where I got stoned and then answered the questions?
Yeah, I'd be open to that. I'd be open to that.
All right.
Let's see here. Jessica Friedman. Do you think Stargirl will get will get a fourth season? And do you think they can find a new home for Naomi and the rest of the canceled Arrowverse shows? I will say this, at least to the second half of that. I've given up hope. Anytime somebody says, we're going to try and push this towards it, we're going to shop this around and see if anybody wants to pick it. When you say that immediately, I'm done. I'm not going to take the bait because I'm not going to spend the next year getting my expectations and hopes up for something that's not even going to happen. So if they telling me that a show's canceled, I'm not expecting it to come back in any way, shape, or form. So I think there is no new home for Naomi and the canceled Arrowverse shows. I think they're done with those and plan on moving forward in the future. I could be wrong. What do you think, Stuart?
I think when it comes to Naomi and Batwoman, those shows are pretty much done. Batwoman, because even though it technically had a cliffhanger, it did mostly wrap up everything it needed to. And really, the only cliffhanger that was really left in Batwoman is, there's another villain out there that we know nothing about. And, very clearly, it's like there's always going to be another villain out there. So it's really not much to justify like the necessity for season 4. In Naomi, I don't think it's going to happen because the overall like kind of viewer, like I know that the CW doesn't tend to really care too much about viewerships and ratings and that kind of stuff, but I think that because the ratings weren't the highest and then also the reviews weren't the highest with that show as well, I think the combination of the two of them is going to make it really tough to pitch the idea of bringing it back to another network, whether it be HBO Max or FX or something like that. I think that would make it a bit of a challenge to really convince them that this would work. And the only show I could kind of see it happening, in fact, I got a pitch for an animated idea of like how they could totally do it as an animated series going forward. But I think Legends of Tomorrow has a chance to come back for one more season. And if not one more season, possibly a TV movie, or possibly at the very least have their story like wrapped up in the form of a comic book or a Flash episode. And that's only because Legends has such a bizarre, like dedicated following. Like people who have been watching that show have been watching it so consistently. Like you look at the viewership numbers from every other show on the CW, they tend to go up and down, but Legends is a lot more like the Supernatural, where it's like it's not necessarily going to ever get higher or lower than certain numbers, but it's always going to be so similar to where it's like that fan base is dedicated and loyal. So I think if any show has a chance of coming back, it's Legends because of that.
We'll see, man. We'll definitely see. Do you think Stargirl will get a fourth season?
Oh man, I hope so, but with with it being very vague about the future of DC television shows on the CW, it's really hard to say for sure. But I think that if what the CEO of the CW has said is true, like he really plans to keep the DC shows going for as long as possible, then yeah, I don't see them losing Stargirl anytime soon, since that seems to be like, one of their biggest shows on the network.
Yeah, I think we will. I think we will too. Kevin Rickardson, what were your guys' reactions when The Dark Knight debuted in theaters, and how does it compare to the new and current Batman with Robert Pattinson? I'm pretty sure I lost my shit when I saw this movie in theaters for the first time. I don't even think I don't remember what city or state I was in when I went and first saw it, but it was such a great experience when I saw A Dark Knight. For me, it immediately catapulted in like my top 5 movies, comic book movies of all time. I was such a huge fan of it. I thought it was almost as perfect as you can get when it comes to not only a Batman film, but a comic book movie as well. I think Christopher Nolan just knocked it out of the park, man. What about you, Stuart?
Yeah, I absolutely loved it. I mean, it was one of the first movies that I saw in an IMAX theater. So whenever you had like the big view of the entire city, man, those shots, those shots still hold up. Like the filming of Chicago to make it look like a Gotham City, I think they still look absolutely incredible. Yeah, and then I think like Christian Bale, when he's playing Bruce Wayne, he has like a very, very cool take on Bruce Wayne by keeping him like kind of in that more like kind of douchebaggy mindset to really make people not assume that he's Batman. And I also really love this version of Harvey Dent, very different from the comic books, but I think he worked really well. And then, of course, I don't think there's enough that I can say to really praise how amazing the Joker was. Like, this was genuinely like still probably the most terrifying version of the Joker that we've gotten. Like, as much as I love Joaquin Phoenix's Joker, I don't think any of them have really had that fear factor as much as Heath Ledger's Joker. As for comparing it to the Robert Pattinson movie, I do think I like that one a little bit more. I think I like the Batman a little bit more just because that one feels the most like comic book accurate Batman that we've gotten. And it feels the most like it almost feels like you're reading a graphic novel on the big screen. And when it comes to Batman, as much as I love kind of the more realistic like direction they took with The Dark Knight, I do kind of also really appreciate the comic booky aspects of the characters. And I feel like that gets brought to the screen a little bit better in the Batman. Whereas like, the Christopher Nolan movies are just kind of a cool, what if Batman was more realistic kind of a thing.
Yeah, I definitely get you. I right now, Batman and Dark Knight are definitely my number 1 and 2 in no particular order right now. I think I still have the Dark Knight as number 1 for me. While I think that when it comes to the Batman, Matt Reeves really put the embodiment of Batman and Bruce Wayne in that movie. I mean, when I think of a Batman movie or like adapting a comic book to a movie, that feels as perfect of a Batman movie you can make as far as accuracy goes. But I think what puts The Dark Knight over the top for me is really all about its I don't want to say it's pacing, but it just has it's a completely different vibe. It feels very much more like it was a bigger blockbuster film for the summer. And there are aspects about Christopher Nolan's Batman that I really enjoyed as far as bringing the action, bringing the characters and stuff to life in a way that I think is easily or more digestible for the general audience than say something like the Batman. Like when even as much as I love the Batman, I can see some people saying that's a little bit too slow for me. Oh, it's a little bit too boring for me, But when I think of the Dark Knight, I feel like it's the perfect movie for like everybody, you know what I mean? Where everybody can get on board. And it's just so well done by Christopher Nolan. And so for me, I think that's the type of movie I can go back and has really great replay value. For me, when I watch the Batman, I feel like I got to be in the mood for that type of film. You know what I mean? Like I have to pick and choose when I put it on. I don't feel like it's something I can throw on in the background and pay close attention to unless I've seen it a bunch of times. But I do think The Dark Knight has a little bit better of a replayability to it. So that's why I put it a little bit higher.
Yeah, that actually makes a lot of sense.
What are your favorite characters from both Marvel Netflix series and the DC Arrowverse? The Black Canaries from some of my favorite characters from the DC Arrowverse. I'll even give some of the villains from the DC Arrowverse a shout out, and Tobias Well along with Lex Luthor. Those are some of the DC Arrow universe characters that really jump out to me. Favorite Netflix characters, definitely Daredevil. I didn't really care. I don't want to say I didn't care about any of the other characters, but Daredevil for me, I was one of my favorites.
Man, for the Netflix shows, yeah, Daredevil is probably my favorite character, and then same with Kingpin. I think like the fact that those are the two that they're bringing back for sure is awesome. I also love John Bernthal's portrayal of the Punisher.
About the Punisher.
I think he does such a perfect job.
Absolutely.
And it's funny because I almost would put Jessica Jones up there, but she became so unlikable in season 2 that it's like it's hard for me to
She was
care.
unlikable season 1 for me. I was like, who is this
she was the fun kind of unlikable, though.
I guess.
I really liked her in season 1, and it's so weird because Jessica Jones season 1 to me was like, on par with Daredevil, but I just hated seasons 2 and 3 so much that it made it so hard for me to really care about that show anymore. But for the Arrowverse, I think my choices are kind of obvious. Like, I think Sarah Lance is still my favorite character, period.
Yeah,
But of course, Barry Allen's Flash, I think Grant Gustin does such an amazing job in that role. Even when the show is written terribly, I still think, it feels like Grant Gustin is never phoning it in. He's always doing a really good
always.
job in that role. And then same with, Stephen Amell's Arrow.
Shout out to Manu Bennett, who played Deathstroke. Loved him in Arrow.
Oh yeah,
Loved
I
him.
think
Who's so
I
great.
think he might have been my favorite villain in the Arrowverse. Now that I'm
So
thinking
good.
about it, yeah.
Good old Marcelino, going back to the Batman question. He says the fight scenes in the Christopher Nolan Batman films were average. It didn't help that Christian Bale's suit didn't help him with the fight scenes. Yeah, a little bit average for sure, but I still thought they were handled pretty well based off of it. But I did like the Batman action a little bit better for sure. But yeah, it felt like Christopher Nolan stuff was certainly made for the big screen when it comes to action wise.
I will say this though,
He's
one thing that movie had over the Batman, with the Batman, because his suit is a little bit too overpowered, it never really felt like he was in that much danger during all the fight scenes, so it made it
Christopher
kind of
Nolan
hard.
movies.
No, the Christopher Nolan movies were the opposite, because even though the suit had armor, it wasn't bulletproof armor, or it wasn't
Oh,
full
that's
on
what you're saying.
bulletproof. Like, there were only so many bullets like the Batman in the Christopher Nolan movie would be able to take before
That's
he was
true.
screwed. But the Batman, it feels like the armor just like is, godlike. Like, he
Yeah.
somehow survives a fall that no one should be able to survive, like in
Well,
that
yeah, that
movie.
one, and then also just the barrage of bullets down the
Yeah.
elevator scene, which I thought was fantastic. A great shot, great scene. But Marceline also says he's a big fan of Malcolm Merlin from
Ooh,
Arrowverse. Yeah,
yes.
he grew on me too. He definitely did grow on me after a while. Joey Thompson's got a couple questions. I don't remember if you guys talked about this before, but did you know that there was a limited animated web series called Spider-Man Freshman Year, which was the origin story we didn't get on how Tom Holland's Peter Parker became Spidey in the MCU? You said there was a limited animated web series that hasn't come out yet.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I don't think I don't think that's out yet, but
Yeah,
I know what you're
it
talking
has
about.
yeah, it hasn't come out yet. It has been announced by Marvel. So yeah, we are in fact gonna get an animated series. I'm assuming if anything, they'll bring Tom Holland in to do the voice for this Peter Parker, but it is supposed to be set as his freshman year, prior to when we meet him in Civil War. So if anything, I would assume he's probably got his his homemade costume. Maybe might take might be the costume for that animated series. But yeah, I don't think the Spider-Man freshman year has been released as of yet. Do you have a release date for it, Stuart?
Not that I can see. I'm kind of looking it up now, but I'm not seeing anything.
Okay.
But yeah, it is a series I'm looking forward to.
What do you think of Marvel's Netflix Daredevil, and how cool was Matt Murdock's cameo in Spider-Man No Way Home? Do you wish or expected his appearance to be short, or wished it was a little bit longer? I thought it was a great little cameo. I didn't need anything more than that. I love the tease of him grabbing the brick as it comes through, right? Of like, how did you do that? You're blind. Can you see that?
I'm a
Um,
really good lawyer.
yeah, I'm a really good lawyer. Yeah, I thought it was a great little cameo. I didn't need to see anything more than that. Great way to establish himself as a lawyer, doing what he does best. And I'm kind of hoping he pops up in She-Hulk a little bit also, especially with She-Hulk and her corporation wanting to create a superhero segment, I guess, to their company. So why not bring on another lawyer in Matt Murdock, maybe to kind of help out with some superhero trials? I would be cool with that. I honestly would be.
Yeah, for sure. Bring back Matt Murdock, or you could also bring back oh god, I forgot her name, but the one woman that's played by Trinity from the Matrix, from Jessica Jones.
Oh, that's right. I can't remember her name, character name either, but yeah, that's a good point too. That's a good one. Let's see here. J.K. Lawrence, what's up, J.K. Lawrence? What do you hope to see in the new Gotham Knight series? Since it will be the second CW show revolving Gotham, and do you think this show could win over fans who really loved and enjoyed Ruby Rose and Javessa Leslie's Batwoman? It's by the same writers and creators of Batwoman, so maybe they'll be able to keep the same tone to attract people to certainly come in. I don't know what I hope to see with Gotham Knights do. Like, I just have a bunch of question marks right now. Even though we've seen the synopsis and the idea that Batman is dead, and we're probably going to deal with some villains or children of some villains. I don't really know how this is all going to work out, but I don't really have any expectations for Gotham Knights. Do you?
Yeah, no, I mean, I'm gonna be honest, man. This is the show. I think this is the least hype I think I've been for a DC television show. It mostly just really looks like they're going for a very different audience. I don't think they're going to go for the same audience that they were trying to go for in Batwoman. I think they're really just trying to go for the Riverdale fans and trying to show, hey, Riverdale fans, you can still be fans of Riverdale and the DC universe. I think that's what they're going for. It looks like.
Yeah, I kind of wish this first promotional art did show some costumes off. I think the downfall to something like Naomi was, we didn't really highlight any costumes, any superhero aspects to it. While it was very character and mystery sort of driven, while I didn't mind the story, it definitely caused it to be a really slow burn, if you will, to where audiences just eventually dropped off. So when I see the first promotional pieces and they're just characters that look like they're ripped out of Riverdale or like Mystery Incorporated, like some adult Scooby-Doo show, like I don't know what this is supposed to be, but I'm gonna have to certainly see a trailer first before I get my hopes up too high or too low. But I just haven't heard enough about it to have any expectation for Gotham Knights, so we'll see what happens though.
Yeah.
Do you think that the rumors of Margot Robbie potentially taking over Pirates of the Caribbean franchise since Johnny Depp's controversy and exit, do you think this is the right move, and could it be successful? What are some of your favorite roles for Margot Robbie throughout her career besides as Harley Quinn? I'm kind of hoping that Pirates does move away a little bit from Johnny Depp. Don't get me wrong, this has nothing to do with the trial or anything that's going on. And I know he's been such a big fixation in the franchise for such a long time, but I just want to see what Pirates life without Johnny Depp is certainly like. I think Margot Robbie is fantastic. Her coming on board just based off of some of the movies we've seen her in, action wise at least, we know she's more than capable of doing all her stunts if she certainly wants to. Performance wise, I kind of want to see her as a swashbuckling pirate. Maybe she doesn't start off as a pirate, maybe she's something else and comes into that life. I don't know, but Margot Robbie is a fantastic actress, and if she comes on board to be the new lead role, one, it would be a breath of fresh air. Two, I would hope that means that we're getting new storytelling and pushing past the whole William Turner and Johnny Depp stuff as Captain Jack Sparrow. So I have confidence in what Margot Robbie can do with that, even though I don't believe that they've completely canceled out the idea of Johnny Depp returning as Captain Jack Sparrow. I think Jerry Bruckheimer, the producer of Pirates, just this week mentioned the idea that they are open to the idea. So whether or not he comes back, who knows? But I'm at this point, Stuart. Move on. Give me something new and fresh. This, if anything, is just going to feel like we're going back to the same old to me.
Yeah, I definitely kind of agree. With Pirates, I've really fallen off ever since the first movie on.
I actually like the last one.
I thought the last one was just okay, kind of like with the fourth one. The second and third one weren't very good. So if they want to do like a full-on reboot of the series, I'm honestly down for it because I haven't really cared about it in a while, which is funny because, it's kind of like Jurassic Park, in a lot of ways, where the first movie has such a big impact, but it's just so weird how little I care about all the sequels. So if they wanted to reboot it completely, I would totally not be opposed to that. And Margot Robbie, yeah, like I agree with you, like she's a phenomenal actress. I just hope that they don't just try to make her a female version of Johnny Depp. I want her to like actually be her own original character in the show or in whatever they do with the franchise going forward. But yeah, I think overall they could have a lot of fun with that.
I really enjoyed her in I, Tonya. I thought that was the Tanya Harding movie. I thought she was really great in that. She was also in The Wolf of Wall Street, which was a fantastic role that she certainly had opposite of Leonardo DiCaprio as well. And I also remember her, I think she had a role in Once Upon a Time in Hollywood as Sharon Tate, if I'm not mistaken, from the Quentin Tarantino movie. And I enjoyed her role in that as well. So she's got a plethora of a great filmography for you guys to certainly check out. And she's going to be in the upcoming Barbie movie opposite Ryan Gosling as well.
That I'm actually weirdly looking forward to.
Yeah, most definitely. Marcelino did say, I heard that Johnny Depp was getting tired of playing Jack Sparrow, so being fired from Pirates was almost a favor, I think. And I did look, he does have a lot of animosity and towards Disney. I believe in the trial he recently said he has no plan of ever working with Disney again. But money talks, man. We'll see. We'll see how everything goes with the trial.
Would have thought it would have been Warner Brothers he would have animosity towards, because they fired him from Harry Potter, but they're
Fantastic.
keeping his or Fantastic Beasts, but they're keeping his or they're keeping Amber Heard along for Aquaman. Or I guess not anymore, but like they were keeping her along for Aquaman.
Yeah, I think they keep reducing her time in the movie. I think she's still in the movie, but I think it's like a really reduced role at this point. Michael Rhymes, what's up, Michael Rhymes? He says, what other entertainment franchises you like to cross over in the Arrowverse, either live action or animated, and why? So are there any other franchises you would like to see cross over with the Arrowverse?
Well, for me, I would love to see some more DCAU DC extended universe characters coming into the Arrowverse, like they did with Ezra Miller. Like I would love to see kind of just the chaotic chemistry you would get from a character like Peacemaker, in a show like, whether it be The Flash or Superman and Lois.
This might sound a little bit odd, but if I had to just pick another franchise, another big franchise, I'm just gonna go a little bit left field with this. Maybe G.I. Joe. I don't know. I feel like maybe there's a one or two G.I. Joe characters that might fit in the Arrowverse relatively well. The street level vigilante aspect of things. I'm not too familiar with all the G.I. Joe characters, but I wouldn't mind a G.I. Joe crossover with maybe some Arrowverse characters too.
If they did that, I would just require that Diggle would be in that, because he's like kind of the one with the military experience.
That's the connections. That's the connections, Stuart, right there, Diggle. Michael Rhymes, what do you guys want to see or are worried about in for the future of the MCU since the events of No Way Home and in the multiverse of madness? What do you guys want to see or are worried about for the future of the MCU? It feels after watching Doctor Strange that the idea of Secret Wars is more plausible than ever. I think a lot of references to incursions and stuff just lead my head to a more current iteration of Secret Wars that wind up leading to that particular series. So I do feel like that's the route that it's going to go. But Stuart, there's a part of me that kind of misses Avengers movies, and I do wonder. I am going to be fascinated to see how Phase 4 works out with more continuous storytelling instead of sort of leading into the big Avengers films, because it feels like they are definitely going to be going more event film focused, as we've seen in No Way Home and Doctor Strange. And I guess I am kind of curious. Like, I see a lot of moving pieces as of right now. And I guess if I do have a worry and concern, it's just the idea of how are you going to make all these connective pieces actually connect? Because there are elements that feel like the multiverse, that connected to incursions, that on top of the idea of a secret invasion and the introduction of Fantastic Four and mutants. It feels like it's a lot. It feels like a lot of random stuff. And I hope it's not a bunch of random stuff that feels forced to be connected and put together. I'm just hoping that, when it comes to the first couple of phases, Kevin Feige did such a good job of connecting the pieces, a proper build up to a great payoff. Right now, it feels kind of chaotic to me, but I am hoping that Kevin Feige has a plan and that it's kind of coming together. Does it feel as chaotic to you, or are you able to see the connective pieces and you're pretty comfortable with the MCU is at right now? Or do you find yourself with a lot of question marks and not really sure what's going on right now with the MCU?
I'd say my biggest concern, kind of similar to yours, where it's like a bunch of cliffhangers seem to be like setting up their own things, but which I'm not too opposed to, because it feels like, Eternals was only setting up events for future Eternals movies. I mean, and you had the Blade tease, but then, same with Doctor Strange, same with Spider-Man. It feels like every movie's just really setting up its own story for their own like conflicts within their movies. And I don't even know if we're really, besides King the Conqueror, I don't even know if we're really going to have like a really big bad, like overall arching villain to really set up at the end of phase 4. So I guess my overall concern is that if every movie is going to basically try to be their own really a big Avengers type event film, I feel like that'll just cause Marvel fatigue to actually like kind of
Mhm.
kick in. If every movie is trying to one up each other, every movie's trying to be the next end game. I feel like, it's like when you watch a lot of fireworks in a row. Like it's really fun to watch a fireworks show for like 20 to 30 minutes, but there's a reason they tend to not go on longer than that, because after, a while they do tend to get kind of boring. So I hope that doesn't happen with Marvel. I hope they don't try to just keep one upping themselves. I hope they can, look at other movies that they got in the future and go, hey, Blade is just a vampire movie. Do we really have to have a world-ending stake here, or can we just focus on
Mhm.
him killing vampires in New York City? Can we go back to, okay, this event is only going to be bad for this particular city. It doesn't necessarily have to be another universe-ending stake. You know what I mean?
Yeah, there's a part of me that like there's a part of me, I don't know why, like I'm sitting here waiting for a MCU movie that will be like, "Oh, so this is the direction that they're going in." Like they've managed to take all these crazy individual event films and somehow lead and push us into one particular direction that does have another end game to it, if you will. Yeah, but right now it just feels a little bit all over the place. But again, Marvel has proven themselves before. This is a completely different phase, so it is about laying the groundwork for something bigger to certainly come down the line. So we'll see if that connective tissue continues to go seamlessly or not. Carter Matthews, what are some of your predictions you have for the Obi-Wan Kenobi series? Any predictions? I don't know about predictions so much. You know what? I'll put a prediction out there. I think we'll see Princess Leia in this movie at some point in time. I think maybe we'll get ourselves a young Leia, especially if we're talking about trying to protect the kids in the sense of trying to keep the Inquisitors off the track of Luke Skywalker. I am kind of curious if the same will certainly happen when it comes to Princess Leia. So I'm hoping for maybe some Leia or Jimmy Smits that plays damn it, what's his name?
Senator Organa, right?
Organa, yeah.
Yeah.
I'm hoping that both of those characters pop up in here. And I'm gonna go the route of Liam Neeson, man. I'm gonna go route of Liam Neeson. They have been very hush hush to mention anything. I gotta think Liam Neeson's in this series, man, as a Force ghost, or maybe just his voice. I gotta think Liam Neeson's in this. So those are my two predictions: Liam Neeson as Qui-Gon cameo, and a Senator Organa and a Princess Leia cameo. If I had to predict anything, what about you, Stuart? Anything that come to mind?
Clone Wars flashback, and I
Mhm.
think you're right about the Liam Neeson cameo. I mean, he has denied it, but at the same time, I swear you probably could have seen like a red dot like pointed at his head with the Disney logo on it. So, yeah, I think like Liam Neeson's a huge possibility.
So we'll definitely see what we get there, and hopefully we have some other cameos. I wouldn't mind a. It would be pretty cool if like Andor popped up in this movie in some way or another. I don't know how far away or separate um this movie is going to be from Rogue One, but I feel it's close enough. So I am kind of curious if any Rogue One cameos early on will make their way into, or even Rebels maybe might make their way into this series. What do you think, also from Carter? What do you think of all the Captain America films and Iron Man films? I'm not going to go down each. That's you'd ask me to ask for 6 movies. And do you think the MCU has transformed to something even better since the finale of Avengers Endgame? Um, it's transformed into something bigger. That's for
Mhm.
sure. Better. I think the verdict is still out right now. I've enjoyed it. That's not saying I haven't enjoyed it, but the path to get where we got to Endgame definitely feels significantly different than what it is we're on the path to as of right now. Maybe ask me that when we get to the end of whatever phase this storyline wants to wrap up in. Um, Feels bigger, but I don't know if better as of yet.
I'd say it. Yeah, I definitely don't know if I can say this is better or not, but I can say that I kind of like that right now they really seem more focused on their individual movies being standalone, and then maybe bringing in guest appearances rather than having each individual trying to set up like a bigger movie going forward. It really feels like every individual movie is just setting up their own thing, which I kind of like, helping each movie feel more standalone-ish. And oh shoot, what was the other part of the question?
And then what did you think of the Captain America and Iron Man films?
Yeah, I like all of them except for I wasn't the biggest fan of Iron Man 2. And then while I didn't really like the ending of Iron Man 3, you know, with the reveal of it not being the Mandarin, you know, now that we actually got our Mandarin in the MCU and all that kind of stuff, I don't think Iron Man 3 was too bad in retrospect, but Iron Man 2 is probably one of my least favorite Marvel films.
The Captain America trilogy for me is still up there with one of my best trilogies that we've had in the MCU. I feel like Spider-Man is up there in comparison to with some of the best trilogies. Like I am fascinated to see what people think Captain America or Spider-Man is the best MCU trilogies. I think it definitely has garnered, both of those have definitely garnered that title. Let's see here. Gabriel, what do you think of the rumors of The Rock possibly replacing Will Smith in Aladdin 2 movie? And if you've seen the first movie, what did you enjoy about it and want to see differently in the sequel? So that is a rumor that I have been hearing. The idea of The Rock possibly replacing Will Smith in Aladdin 2. Again, this is simply just a rumor. I haven't heard any other Deadline, Variety, or Hollywood Reporter really pushing this rumor. I don't like it. I don't like it at all. It was already hard to have to replace Robin Williams as Will Smith, as the genie, and to be able to find Will Smith, who got a lot of flack for being cast. But when you actually see the movie, I thought he was just like the best man for the job. I mean, I was really impressed that he was able to make the genie sort of his own as well while paying homage to Robin Williams. It's not like the Batman or Superman where you can just come in and replace anybody with the genie. I just feel like The Rock and Will Smith have two completely different personas. And so, no, I say keep The Rock away from Aladdin 2 as the genie. I think, if anything, I say you put Aladdin 2 on the back burner and wait like 2-3 years and then maybe bring in Will Smith to go ahead and reprise his role. I really loved what he did, and I would hate to see him replaced, honestly.
Yeah, I would agree. I'd say like one thing that worked really well was that he did his own thing with the genie character, and so the idea of replacing with The Rock kind of feels weird. Although if they had started the first Aladdin movie with The Rock, I feel like that, if I'm being honest, would have been an even better genie than Will Smith. But
it might have been.
But you know, again, I do like that he did his own thing with the genie, and he didn't try to like just copy what Robin Williams did that made him popular to begin with. But really, the only person I would want to replace Will Smith as the genie, Chris Rock. I think that would be freaking hilarious. Okay, but joking aside, with the first Aladdin movie, funny enough, and it really just kind of comes down to, this is like my problem with every Disney remake, is that they keep everything way too similar to the original movie, which if that's all they were going to do, if they just want to make a live action recreation of those movies, that would be fine. But then they end up changing like small details that, like, in the filmmaker's perspective, they seem like really small details that don't matter. But when you actually look at the movie that, you know, those small details come from, you realize because these animated movies are incredibly short, every small detail is actually really important to the movie as a whole. And when you take out those details, it really kind of, ruins a big portion of what made this movie so good. So my biggest example is Aladdin, and how at the very beginning of the movie, you know, we see him barely really put in that much work to stealing a gem. And then when he gives it to like, a kid at the end who's hungry, it really doesn't feel like that much of a heroic moment from Aladdin. Whereas in the original, we see him running for his life because of a loaf of bread. And even after he escapes those guards, then he gives it to like, the starving children. That's a lot more admirable because we've seen how much he struggled just to get that piece of bread, and the fact that him eating is a rare occasion and that he gave that up after that struggle. There are so many small things like that they change in these live action Disney movies. So I think with the next Aladdin movie, probably not being based on, I'm assuming they're not going to base these Disney sequels off the straight to video sequels.
Yeah, I don't think
So
they are.
so if they're going to take it in its own direction, they might actually end up being better than the first movies, because now you don't have to worry about comparing them to something that came before.
Yeah, absolutely. I think you have a lot more creative freedom when it comes to the sequels here. So who knows? Maybe The Rock could take over one day. Like, if there's anybody you could change, it probably is the genie, just based off of his power set alone. But man, I really liked what Will Smith brought to the role. So we'll see.
Last thing I'll say, I definitely recommend checking out Your Movie Sucks review of The Lion King. It's not even, I think it's only halfway done, but it's somehow like a 3-hour video. And he goes into some really interesting details when talking about it. Sorry, it's 2 hours and 40 minutes long. And it's technically part 1 of 2. And he says he's not even going to have the second part out till the end of the year. But regardless, it is definitely a really interesting review of The Lion King. And the points that he brings up of why he doesn't like the live action movie are very, very interesting, especially coming from someone who's very musically in the know compared to me, because he brings up like things that I wouldn't have even noticed when listening to some of the songs. It's amazing.
Gabriel also says, with the Flash series going for its 9th season, and if the rumors come true about season 9 or even season 10 being it for the series, do you think years from now people will look back and say this was one of the most successful shows on TV, or one of the worst shows to ever come out and drop in quality season after season?
I think it's going to be looked at the same way Smallville was, where it's like
Hmm.
the impact that the first couple seasons had were so big that even
So
though the
big.
show went downhill after a while, I don't think it's enough to say that the show left a bad taste in people's mouths. I think people are going to remember the impact and not necessarily kind of the trail end.
I agree with you. I think that's a great comparison. I do feel that's the direction it'll go too. So I think, yeah, great comparison. Danny Morales, what's up, Danny? He says, why is the upcoming Miss Marvel MCU series being nitpicked by so much by fans? And what do you hope to see that's different from this series for the MCU besides the first Muslim superhero in the MCU? For me, I think it's tone. I definitely want to see the type of fun this series has. If the trailer is any indication, with like the pop-up bubbles, the little things of like what Kamala Khan's thinking about, some of the little quirky animation. I don't know if that's going to carry over into the series itself, but I am looking forward to a pretty lighthearted kind of coming of age story for a kid. I don't feel like we've had that. I think Hawkeye is probably going to feel significantly more different from this. WandaVision, a little bit more of a sitcom. I feel like when it comes to the MCU series, Miss Marvel will be its own unique feel and tone to it. And I think for me, I think that's what I'm really hoping to see that's different from the other MCU series.
Yeah, that's definitely the vibe I get from it. It's just like kind of a really fun family coming to age dramedy. I'm sure we're going to have like a lot of really fun high school wacky scenarios, but along with the, growing up, being a fan of superheroes, and then her probably not being, I'm assuming from like the clips that we've seen, maybe not the most popular kid in school. So I look forward to kind of like seeing the drama also play out in there as well.
And I kind of want to see, especially with her being a Muslim and her Pakistani background, there is a part of me that kind of wonders like what her belief system is in regards to being a superhero. Like, is there a pushback to fight against evil or to be violent in your own right? Like I am wondering if that's something that's kind of explored in regards to what it means for somebody who is Muslim or Pakistani background to become a superhero, and just the kind of the weight that she sort of now carries to have on her shoulders. There is a little bit more of a in-depth aspect to her character and just her religious or spiritual beliefs that I want to see if that plays a role in regards to her decision making about being a superhero. But I feel like the biggest nitpick is probably her power base in regards to them changing it. But the the co-creator wind up coming out and saying, I think she's going to have elements of her abilities from the comics, but I do think that they are creating or taking liberties and creating something new with her powers, like they mentioned, so that she really does fit into the bigger MCU story as a whole. And I can appreciate that, especially if you stick with at least a little bit of her previous powers. But I'm looking forward to it. I actually really am looking forward to it.
Yeah, and I feel like with the MCU wanting everything to be very, all the characters to feel very different and very diverse, it makes sense that they want to kind of change up her powers a bit so it doesn't just look like she's just another Reed Richards.
Yeah, absolutely. And I believe you and Indy might be tackling the Miss Marvel series here for us when it does in fact drop. I know Indy was trying to do reviews for Miss Marvel along with what was the other? Maybe She-Hulk as well. But I think hopefully we'll get both of you guys to be able to co-host that review for us. So if you are looking for a home for your Miss Marvel reviews, we definitely will be reviewing it. Danny also asked, what did you like about the Loki Disney series? What was it like watching an entire series focused on Loki, and any differences or unique takes you found from using Loki from the big screen to the small screen? I really like the attention to detail to the Loki character. I feel like he grew so much over this time period, especially when he has to deal with several of his own different variants to see what Loki was like elsewhere. And I think his partnership with Sophie was pretty fantastic. I really enjoyed their bond and their chemistry on screen. And I did not know what a Tom Hiddleston and Owen Wilson combo would look like, but damn, give me more of them. Like I
Mhm.
really would love like a side web series or something like Team Thor, like we had from the Team Cap and Team Iron Man. Just seeing like these small little web series or little videos, featurettes. I would love to see more of Owen Wilson's and Tom Hiddleston's character together. But I think Michael Waldron's story and his writing just fits so perfect for the Loki character, especially the adventure that we wind up getting and the variance and messing up the timeline. I really enjoyed seeing what we wind up getting. What about you though, Stuart?
Yeah, I mean, I fully agree. I think the two of them had such great chemistry together, and it was something that I didn't know I wanted to see until I got it. I think my nitpick about the series, and this is really just going to be for any MCU show altogether, is because it's all there to tell one cohesive story. It's essentially like, a mini series rather than like an actual television show. It does kind of suck that we're probably not going to be able to get more of those really fun, the good type of filler episodes, I guess you could say, where they use it more for like developing the characters but not necessarily needing to move the story forward, where you could just have an episode where they go on a wacky adventure that's just very disconnected from everything going on, but what is connected is just how the characters grow through those. So that's like the one thing that kind of sucks, because I feel like a show like Loki would be perfect for that format, but I totally get why they're not doing that format.
Yeah, I can definitely understand that too. And yeah, I think the Kang stuff continues to win me over. I think we talked about this, Stuart, right? Like the idea of like literally Jonathan Major's performance as Kang and just in that finale alone, is probably why I have it up there as like one of my favorite, if not the favorite MCU series alone. And I think for me, after that probably comes Falcon and a Winter Soldier as well. But the Jonathan Majors and his introduction as King the Conqueror really just took me by surprise and was just an amazing addition to the Loki series. So bring it on, man. I cannot wait to see what a season 2 is going to look like.
You know what I think this show and Doctor Strange had in common, though, is that they both kind of gave a lot of Marvel fans what they wanted and what they expected, but not the way they were expecting it.
Yeah, I totally agree. And, going back to the whole idea of like the direction of the MCU, I think Doctor Strange was a really great roundup of at least one of the storyline elements in regards to WandaVision. Clearly taking some references from No Way Home and implementing them in there in regards to him really opening up the multiverse or messing around with things that he doesn't fully understand. So I do feel like Doctor Strange kind of at least wrapped up one story element that's kind of been from the beginning here for this phase 4. So that was certainly nice to see. But it'll be interesting to see how Loki and the rest of the Kang the Conqueror storyline really fits into all of it. Good old Morgan Hutchinson's got a couple questions. What's up, Morgan? Appreciate you coming through. What are some of your favorite comedy films in the late 90s and early 2000s that made you die out of laughter? I did look up some popular 1990s comedies. There's a few on here, but I will name a few that I found absolutely hilarious. Good old Happy Gilmore from 1996, hilarious. Um, Actually, I actually was a big fan of 10 Things I Hate About You. I know that's probably not, I might not be the target audience, but I actually really enjoyed that movie. Anything Austin Powers related, that's more tail end of the 90s. Clueless was pretty hilarious. We had The Mask in there also. Liar Liar, if we're going like the 90s was um the 90s was Jim Carrey's world, man. Liar,
Mhm.
Liar, Ace Ventura, Don't Be a Menace to South Central While Drinking Your Juice in the Hood. I mean, there were some classics, man. Half Baked, I think, came out right during that time, 98 as well. The Water Boy. Yeah, Adam Sandler was big in the 90s as well. So, yeah, those are some of the ones that really sort of made me laugh out loud. I'm sure there's probably plenty of others that I can't think of off the top of my head. Tommy Boy was in there during that time. What year was that? 95. Rush Hour came through,
Oh man.
98. Robin Hood Men in Tights, 93.
Yes.
Yeah, man, there's so many good movies during the 90s that made me laugh out loud. How about for the 2000s, Stuart?
Oh man, you got like the American Pie franchise. You got
Oh, was
Dude,
that?
Where's My Car?
Oh, yeah, that was a good one too.
Harold and Kumar. So many. And then from the 90s ones, I was gonna say Boogie Nights and Dazed and Confused are two that I've actually only just seen recently.
Hmm.
And then The Great Lebowski.
Oh, yeah, that was a great one too. For the 2000s, I'll even put Superbad came out 2007, Pineapple
Yes.
Express in 2008. Um, Hangover, believe it or not, was 2009. That was fantastic.
Did you ever see Fanboys?
Oh, the Star Wars one?
Yeah.
Yes, that's pretty hilarious also. Yeah, man, they had a couple great comedies back in the 2000s, man. Shaun of the Dead was a fantastic one.
Mhm.
Oh yeah, you already said Use Was My Car.
The whole Cornetto trilogy. So Shaun of the Dead, Hot Fuzz, and then of
Oh
course,
yeah.
it's not early 2000s. This one's 2010s, but The World's End is just genuinely one of my all-time favorite comedies ever. It's amazing. If you guys haven't seen that, watch it.
And Morgan also asked, how excited are you for Michael Keaton's return for the Flash movie and Batgirl? And do you think presence will make a huge impact in the DCU despite Warner Brothers and the DC merger situation and the actor of the movie?
If they continue with the plans that they have currently, yeah, I think he's going to have like a really big impact on that universe going forward. But as of now, I can't really say for sure because there already seems to be quite a bit of changes going on behind the scenes. So
Yeah.
I can't say for sure currently.
Yeah, we'll see. We'll definitely see. But I am excited for it. I do hope that they continue to come out with this movie. I definitely hope it hits theaters at some particular point in time because I do think Michael Keaton will have a role going forward. But yeah, we're kind of in such a time of uncertainty. It does make one wonder, what will they allow to continue? Will they just stop and have a fresh reboot at some point, or do they look at the Flash at that point and like anything that comes after that? They'll create something of their own. I do think that because Blue Beetle's in production right now and Batgirl, I think those two movies are for sure. As far as Sasha Calle's Supergirl, I think maybe they'll hold off on that. I don't know if they're going to cancel that idea. I think maybe they'll wait and see how the Flash movie does next year, and if it's well received, then maybe they push forward with the Supergirl movie. But I wouldn't be surprised if we don't hear anything from Supergirl for quite some time. But I do hope that Michael Keaton continues to play a significant role. I hope he has a huge impact. I mean, clearly he's going to be impacting not only the Flash movie, but the Batgirl movie also. So it seems like he has to have a big role. But that really will come down to the new CEO, David Zaslav, and what they decide to do kind of going forward. With that though, Stuart, I think I'm going to wrap up the live viewer questions, man. It is about 3 o'clock right now. We've been going for about 3 hours. We do have a plethora of other emails in here as well. But if anything, I'll give you access, Stuart, to the email if you don't have it already. So you can go ahead and pull up the questions for yourself and do a live viewer question video. When do you think you'll be able to record that, if anything?
It'll probably be 12 o'clock California time.
Okay.
So yeah, probably. So it'd be like 2 o'clock for you, I think. But yeah,
Okay.
that's I think that would probably be the time that would work best for me.
Okay. Whether or not he does it live or pre-recorded, I'll definitely leave that up to Stuart. But if anything, definitely expect your live viewer questions tackled by good old Stuart Branscombe himself.
You should if you're able to, no worries if you can't. Any chance would you be able to make me a good thumbnail?
I might just have you use the same thumbnail, man.
Oh,
You mean
okay.
thumbnail? I see what you're saying. Yeah, I think if anything, I was probably just gonna put the logo and then just type live viewer questions. But I'll put something together for you. Don't worry about it.
Okay.
Um,
But yeah, if not, no worries. I can put one together if I need to.
All right, no problem. But yeah, other than that, guys, I think that's going to go ahead and wrap it up for us, and then we'll definitely tackle the live viewer questions later on this week for you guys. So definitely go ahead and stay tuned to that. So thank you very much, guys, for everybody's participation here today. I will say Datilla did say that she did finish Chippendale, and she loved it, Stuart.
Yeah, it was a really fun movie, and I highly recommend checking it out. If you like Space Jam and Who Framed Who Framed Roger Rabbit, I think you'll definitely like Chippendale.
Yeah, I hope so. Also, I do want to just jump real quick into some these last comments that were in the live chat, at least. Tarek says, I love Natalie Portman as Jane, even way better before she got swole. Well, I'm glad you liked her. I wasn't the biggest fan of Jane, honestly.
Yeah, that's funny because yeah, for me, I wasn't the biggest fan of her either. I thought she was okay in the first Thor movie, but like in Thor 2, it was just way too obvious that she just wasn't having a good time filming it. And yeah, but with this movie, it looks like she's actually more excited about it. So I'm kind of expecting her to do a much better job in this, at least hoping. Anyways, fingers crossed.
Carter Matthews does say, any news on how Black Panther will pass the torch? Could this be what the Power Rangers 30th anniversary might do with Trini? Does she have a daughter? According to Illuminati, the Yen character that's in the casting sides is meant to be the daughter of Trini. We'll see if that comes to fruition. I don't even know if we're getting this special anymore, man. I honestly have no idea. Any news on Black Panther passing the torch? Nothing off the top of my head. I'm under the assumption, no, that is going to be what'll happen. That we'll see somebody else in the costume itself. But I don't know how Ryan Coogler is going to work that out. Morgan says, "Oh my God, Mark Ruffalo is back as the Hulk." Yeah, we saw him from the trailer. Going to be popping up in here. It looks like he's still science Hulk, though, right?
Yeah. I'm kind of curious though, because we saw him as regular Mark Ruffalo in Shang-Chi. So I'm kind of curious if we're going to be seeing like if he can transform back into Bruce Banner or not.
Yeah, and I'm kind of curious continuity wise if one comes before the other. I'm not quite sure yet, but I guess we'll figure it out.
I also find it weird. Like, I'm sure we're gonna get an explanation for this, but how does a government facility in the U.S. like end up making deals to let characters like someone like Abomination fight for an underground like fighting ring that goes on, the dark web and that kind of stuff?
I mean, I wonder if that's before. I wonder if well, I don't know, because Wong was with him, but I don't know, man. That's a good question. I wonder if there's a bigger picture to what's going on with Abomination there. Maybe he's like an intel guy. Maybe he's got information on stuff and they need to keep him around and they're just like feeding him and spoiling him for information. I have no idea.
Letting him get some extra. That could be their way of letting him get exercise.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah, maybe he's on contract with the United States government or something. Let's see here. I'm trying to see if there's anything. Datilla says, I'm personally shocked about Austin. He seemed like such a nice guy. I will say this, this is why, one of the things that I have learned over the years, Stuart, is I don't put as much belief in the people like I used to. I don't know if that's like, as I get old, I get more cynical and things like that. But I do think that, we look at these people as role models, and I understand them being role models because of the fact that they were Power Rangers at some point in time. But I do think as a fan base, sometimes we tend to, think that these people are their characters, and unfortunately that is just not the case. And people make mistakes, people do dumb shit, unfortunately, and do crush the hearts of people that really are inspired by these people and look up to these people. I've had to learn it the hard way myself in regards to seeing some of my people that I idolize and look up to make some decisions. But none of us are perfect. We're all human beings, and I always I'm under the impression that we should definitely view people significantly different and not hold them up to these high standards. There's nothing wrong with having people to certainly look up to, but to put all your belief into one particular person is just a massive mistake, and it's just gonna let yourself down. Not to say that that's what you're doing, Tiller, or the rest of the community, but pretty sure there are some people that, regardless of what happens, like I've seen people come to Austin's defense, like Austin's paid for their lunches before, helped their moms get out of prison, like they know this dude personally, like he's specifically helped them, sort of thing. And I always just say to people, like, hey, there's nothing wrong with believing in somebody, but just don't put all your chips on one person, man. You think you might be disappointed. I don't know, that maybe that's just my cynical take on things as I've gotten older, I guess. I don't know. What about you though, Stuart?
I think, yeah, with actors, you got to be really careful, because you got to realize, like, just because they're playing such a good person, like on television, that doesn't mean that's how they are in real life. Now, with Austin St. John's, I try to make it clear, like earlier in the show, that I know nothing about him personally.
I've met the guy twice, and he was an awesome dude, getting the chance to talk to him, so like, I don't have any ill will or animosity towards the dude. He seemed like a nice guy. I agree with you, Attila. I don't know what's going on.
So my hopes of him, like, kind of being innocent, it really comes more from, as a Power Ranger fan, like, I really hope this guy isn't, what the media is going to make him out to be, if this turns out to be true. But at the same time, I'm definitely not going to try to defend him or be like, oh no, he's totally innocent, because I don't know.
Let's see here. Question. Francois says, what is OJ? For a second I was like, Simpson, but I do remember mentioning, hey, grab your coffee and your OJ. It's orange juice, man. I guess do they not call OJ or orange juice OJ in France? I guess not. Maybe they probably got something else that they call it. Who knows? Shout out to John Schuyler for certainly joining us today. Thank you very much, man. All right. I think other than that, Stuart, I think that'll do it for us, man.
Awesome.
But other than that, I appreciate you guys certainly coming through today. We may have ourselves a midweek episode too, to look forward to. I know Indy's been talking about the idea of maybe kicking off maybe this Wednesday. I'll definitely go ahead and talk with Indy tonight and see if that's something that he's on board with. The Wednesday shows, I definitely want to make the Wednesday shows accessible for any of us to host. Something that's small enough for 4 or 5 topics briefly that maybe Indy can host, maybe Stuart can host, maybe you both can host together, maybe I can host, just kind of going back and forth, whatever certainly works for people's schedule. But I do believe Indy referenced the idea of maybe this week beginning a midweek show for Hero Report, but we'll definitely keep you guys posted in regards to that. But other than that, I think that's going to go ahead and do it for us here. Again, the live rest of the live viewer questions Stuart will certainly have for you guys earlier in the week, so certainly look out for that. But if anything, we certainly will be back next weekend. So until then, Stuart, where can people find you if they want to go ahead and reach you on social media?
You guys can follow me at TurboStew01 over on Twitter, and of course on Instagram as well.
And if you guys want to follow us on social media, you can do so right up here at A+ Opinions. Very active over on Twitter, very active over on Instagram, as well as our main page, which is our Facebook page. So definitely go ahead and follow us over there. If you haven't subscribed to the channel, hit that subscribe button along with that big thumbs up. If you like this episode, it definitely does go a long way. And if you would like to communicate with us outside of our YouTube community, feel free to join our Discord. There is a link in the description box below. It's a fantastic forum community that allows us to talk about a plethora of topics outside of Hero Report and other things as well. So definitely go ahead and follow us there. But until then, we certainly will see you next weekend. And in the meantime, do us a big favor. As always, guys, take care of yourselves, take care of each other, and keep it A+. We'll talk to you guys later. Bye.